evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Oh, baby, you know what it is. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 p.m. That can only mean one thing, baby, and that's not Phillies World Series baseball. No, not yet. We're a week early on that. Every Tuesday night, 7 p.m., Wrestle Talk Podcast goes live, and we do what we do best, and that is bring you the best. Let me say that one more time. The best pro wrestling live podcast in the game today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestle Talk Podcast. I am one of your hosts tonight, Sonny Money Mayo. I'm so happy to be back. It's been such a long time, but I am not alone. I am not alone tonight. Please let me introduce you to my co-host, the bread and butter of this operation, making his way from fabulous Kansas City, Kansas, by way of Boca Raton, Florida, the one, the only, the Night Owl.
Que pasa, loyal members of the Wrestle Talk Familia. What a pleasure it is to be here with my brother, Sonny Money Mayo, and all of you for episode 415 of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Sonny Money, man, it's like getting back on a bike, ain't it? Don't it feel like you're getting back on the bike?
It feels like it, bro. And I haven't picked up this bike in a long time, but I picked it up and I just went right into gear 10 and went right down the hill. Yeah, we're full blast in this thing, bro. I haven't been here in a while, so it feels great. I'm picking up right where I left off last time. And, bro, shout out to everybody else in Wrestle Talk Podcast, but I couldn't think of a better co-host tonight than with you, Night Out.
Now, for the record, and people may be keeping tabs at home, you and I have never, ever exclusively hosted a show together through the old Dick Douglas days to everything before that and everything that came after that. Dude, this is our first time ever getting this thing done. And what's funny, and people may not know this, you are my pro wrestling godfather, and you're like 3 years younger than me.
Yeah.
All right. So it's kind of weird, but it's kind of awesome. So I'm honored and privileged to be here with you, bro. I know your pro wrestling knowledge is like, it's out of this world, even though, we all have our highs and lows as fans. We're not always as locked in as we were during a certain period of time, but that doesn't change the love and the affinity that you have for the sport, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, no matter what, no matter how my days are going, family, shoot job, whatever, some days I'm like, wrestling. And then some days I'm like, wrestling. But it's always there in my bloodline, bro. And, part of the tribe.
Bloodline. I like how you did that.
Wrestling's part of the bloodline, bro. I mean, we get NFL. My Phillies are in the World Series. Shout out to them. And I'll be mentioning them a couple times tonight. I know you don't want to hear that, but I don't give a shit. But wrestling's always there, bro. Wrestling is always there, man. And you know what? Like you said, Renee, it's crazy. Through all these times of Wrestle Talk Podcast, you and I have never hosted. We've been in the same room while you hosted. You know what I mean? I've been behind the camera, man, for you. I've been next to you.
You've been a guest?
I've been a guest, but, bro, never hosted. So, this is the first time, and, I like the way it's vibing off so far, man.
Yeah, well, I dig it too, man, and guess what? We have an incredible show lined up. You guys may be already able to see over my shoulder. We have two incredible guests, starting with Mike Chisholm. All right, that's how I think I might have forgot the L. I'll put that in later if I need to. Mike was a guy that we met over at CAC. He's not only a podcaster, he's a promoter, but he's also a finance guy. Hence the title of tonight's episode: Fiscally imposing, not physically imposing. Fiscally imposing. And for those in the business world, you know that means finances. And then also in the second hour, a guy who you guys see every single week here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, our resident chaplain, the one and only Big Daddy P, will join us for a full interview segment. Well, we'll get a chance to not just talk about the God stuff and, the faith and the prayer requests and all that, which we have quite a few this week. But Sonny, we also get an opportunity to talk to Big Daddy P about just good old fashioned wrestling. So we may have a bit of an extended high spots tonight with Big Daddy P in the second hour, man. You can't really beat that. Our lineup tonight, bananas, my guy, bananas.
Yep. Hey, and just like every single Tuesday night, though, bro, no matter who's hosting, whatever, when Wrestle Talk Podcast goes live at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, it ain't nothing but us bringing the heat, bro. Whether that's Flywalker, whether that's Hoss hanging out in the back on the ones and twos, it doesn't matter, bro. We always bring it, dog. But
have you met the new host? Have you met the new host?
Yo, major shout out to Justin.
Yo, Justin Waits came in last week, filled in, and did an absolutely phenomenal job. So I went ahead and opened up the checkbook and extended the offer. So Justin Waits now is going to be a part of our permanent host rotation. Sonny, we got coverage from the East Coast, Philly, West Virginia. We got coverage in the Midwest, St. Louis, Kansas City. And now we got coverage up in the upper Northwest on the West Coast, baby, out of the Seattle area. Justin Waits, man, we are covering the map, top to bottom, side to side, everything in between, bro. That's what Wrestle Talk is all about. And there's a lot of other great shows out there that are putting together a whole lot of great content, and we love them and we appreciate them. But we're going to continue what we do to set ourselves apart, man. The Wrestle Talk podcast is one of a kind, and hopefully you guys you keep enjoying the content that we're putting forward to you. Now, with all that said, we do a couple of other things here on the show every single time we broadcast, on top of talking to some of the very best guests and a whole bunch of pro wrestling jargon. Sonny, we pay homage and respect. And you know what my favorite thing is to pay homage and respect to? The greatest country on God's great earth. And on that note, I'm going to ask everybody to respectfully remove their caps. Sorry if the light's shining off the top of my head, y'all. I'm blinding y'all. I apologize. And my man, the haircut, it's obvious. Ladies and gentlemen, remove your caps as we pay homage to the greatest country on God's great earth. And that's America, damn it. All right. Enough of that nonsense. Sonny, how does that hit, bro? Coming back off of a little hiatus, man. Did you miss Roseanne or what?
I absolutely missed Roseanne, and I just got some late-breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive to the Wrestle Talk podcast. From my NFL insider, we've got the reason why Tom Brady yells at his offensive line every Sunday. It's because Roseanne sang the national anthem back in 1989.
That's so good, bro. And I'm sorry, I hate to pile on, but Tom Brady has made me hate football more than once in my entire life. So hearing that he's not doing so well in football, it makes me happy. Now, everything outside of that, the personal life, it is, everybody's got personal stuff, but I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, there's one other thing that I need you to share, Sonny Money, and you go solo for this one. Would you do me a huge favor and go ahead and hit all the fine folks with the wonderful sponsors of the Wrestle Talk podcast?
No, absolutely. We wouldn't be able to do this live every Tuesday night, ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't for our great sponsors. So big shout out to Royals Mills Transportation, Mr. Dewan Mills himself, Rathbun Engraving. Get your Wrestle Talk podcast mugs there just for $20. Noble Men's Barber Lounge, Kansas City, Missouri. Big shout out to Kincaid Arcade at Oak Park Mall. Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs. Get your Wrestle Talk podcast Tumblr, ladies and gentlemen. And last but not least, but definitely my favorite, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. If it wasn't for all those wonderful sponsors, Night Owl, you and I wouldn't be able to get to do this every Tuesday night, man, whether it's host or even watching on Facebook, YouTube, so on and so forth, my man. So major shout out to all those sponsors helping out Wrestle Talk podcast.
Did you say something about a Tumblr?
Yeah, man, you got to get the Tumblr. Little Popeye, man. That's it.
Bro. So shout out to Little Popeye, by the way, actually in the middle of a very serious fight with cancer.
Yeah.
F cancer, period, from the whole Wrestle Talk family. Felix, we love you, bro. Get well soon. Can't wait to see you again. And thank you so much for coming up, not only with this incredible design, but also for helping us put together the Tumblr, the logo, the font for the names and everything. I mean, Felix just really took it to a whole nother level, bro, when he put this together for us. He said, hey, for the Wrestle Talk podcast, anything. Gotta love it, man.
That's
Gotta love
That's
it.
Right.
Well, on that note, Sonny Money, we got some business to get to because people are sick of staring at your and my mug. I think people came to talk a little pro wrestling. So why don't you go ahead and do us the honors, my man, and introduce the first segment of this evening.
One of my favorite segments, one of my favorite parts of Wrestle Talk podcast. Yeah, we get on here and we do our little 20-minute spiel back and forth. Hey, how you doing? But now let's get down to business, gentlemen. Welcome to the very first segment of the evening. One of my favorites, again, DJ Money. I'm ready to hear that music because, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the High Spot segment.
Mic check, mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk podcast.
Love that thing.
DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like clear chops. We talk shop, coming through the screens of a laptop and non-stop like a runner's speeches of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops, like a spark flash, but like a barely fly. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk podcast. Now they know we about to start the show.
All right, Sonny Money, it is time to talk pro wrestling. Hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. Now, I know you've been out for a little bit. We have a randomizer thing that kind of happens now because there are many High Spots topics, some of which you contributed to. So we'll go ahead and hit the randomizer. Music for the randomizer coming very, very soon. And by the way, there is a malfunction this evening with Facebook comments. So we will not be able to post your Facebook comments this evening, but do not stress, okay? All you need to do is jump over to the YouTube, like our friend Aaron Wallace has done. He said Roseanne be hitting. Yeah, Roseanne do be hitting. But anyway, make your way over to the YouTube stream, guys, if you want to comment on today's broadcast, and we will be able to share all of your comments like we usually do. And no, this is not our fault. This is an issue with the service provider, not with us. We'll have everything back up and running for you guys next week. Now, on that note, it is time for our first High Spots topic of the evening. And here's our first topic for the evening. Sonny Money, you want to take that one?
Sure, man, absolutely. I'd love to kick off High Spots tonight. And this is a question I threw out here, and I think this could go a million ways, but I'll show you the meaning of why I asked that question. So the first High Spots question of the evening. Besides the wrestlers in the ring, what would you consider the most important part of the wrestling show that you go to, whether that be an independent wrestling show, whether that be WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan? What would you, when you walk into that building, obviously you're walking into that building to see these guys and girls get into the ring, tell a story, or see High Spots, whatever, but have a wrestling match. Now, besides that match, what do you think is the most important part of that show? Is it the production? Is it the theme music for the wrestlers? Is it the sound on the PA system? Is it the commentary team? Is it the lighting in the building?
Can I give you a 2A and a 2B for me?
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
Okay,
What is the
okay.
most important part for you, Night Owl, besides a wrestling match?
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And really, I could do 2A, B, and C, but I'm going to keep it to 2. So the first one for me, and I think you already kind of alluded to a little bit, is it's a production thing. Okay. If I walk in and I can't hear what the ring announcer is saying on the microphone, and if the music is too loud or it's like screeching in my ears, if the ring doesn't look safe and clean, if the chairs are like too congested, you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I will say presentation / comfort. Like, I gotta be able to know that I'm gonna be able to spend 3.5 hours in this building and enjoy myself. Okay. And with presentation, I'm gonna go ahead and include the temperature. If it's 107 degrees outside, it's probably 127 on the inside.
Yep.
So that's got to be part of it for me as well. I've got to be able to know that I'm going to sit at the show and enjoy myself and be comfortable, and that I can hear what everyone's saying and see what everyone's doing for the entirety of the show. If I'm going to shelve out the 15, 25, sometimes $45 for VIP seats, I want to make sure that I have a great presentation. And number 2, or B, I would say that the promotion leading into the show needs to be on point. I kind of want to know who's facing who. I don't want to see one thing on the card, on the flyer, and then something completely different the day that I show up. If I go there, like back in the day, I would go see the Kansas City Chiefs, and then they wouldn't announce whether Priest Holmes was going to play or not, and then I got Derek Blaylock. I was not happy because I wanted to go see Priest Holmes. Okay, and I understand everybody says, you know, the little verbiage down at the bottom of every poster, Night Owl, it says card subject to change. I understand that things are going to happen. Life happens. But if it's completely off from what I expected and not even half the talent that was on the poster ends up appearing on the show, that's something that really pisses me off. Now, you could wrap that up and say, well, Renee, that's kind of with the guys in the ring. But I'm going to kind of lump that in with the presentation of it all. Yeah, I think it all fits together.
Oh, it does, but you got to understand, cards subject to change, bro. And you know that. You see that on every single poster. Sometimes life happens. And you know what? I'm going to piggyback off of what you're kind of saying here. Bro, you and I have had some of the best times in a building where it's been 120 degrees, where that PA sound system sucked, where we couldn't hear it. But you know what? Those wrestlers kicked ass in the ring, didn't they? You know what I mean? Those are some of the best times. Pro wrestling, to me, still in the back of my mind, and even before ECW, but that kind of lumped in with it, is that old 1970s wrestling, bro, where people were smoking in the crowd. There was no Titantron. You had the freaking house mic from the NBA games going, or going. You know what I mean?
Can't hear nothing, bro.
Right. But, you know, hey, as long as these guys in the ring, and like I said, besides the wrestlers, as long as these guys in the ring are doing it. So now, for me to answer that, besides the wrestlers, what would I consider the most important part of the wrestling show? The fans. And Night Owl, you can attest to this with me, bro. We've been at great shows, and there's been a guy next to us who doesn't even know how to say the word deodorant, let alone spell it or wear it. We've had people on this side who just keeps doing that annoying ass chant from a match that was, 6 matches ago, that just, hey, I get it. We're all there. We paid money. We can chant what we want, how we want, when we want, as long as you don't cross the line and you're disrespectful. But sometimes it's just freaking annoying, bro. Like, pay attention to what's going on in the ring.
I got a story. I think you'll remember this once you're done.
But my last one, and this goes in with the fans. Go to watch the show. Do not be a part of the show. Go to watch a show. Be a part of the show. Be a part of the show with your yelling, and you're screaming, and you're booing, and your high fives. But don't be so loud and obnoxious in that crowd that you are taken away from the match. Those people are in that ring to perform for you. You didn't go there to perform. You want to perform, you go down to a wrestling school, you pay your money, and then you go out there with the trained professionals, or you go down to the comedy show and you tell your jokes down there. But while I paid my $20 and I'm sitting next to my best friend, the Night Owl, I don't need to hear your commentary about something that happened 4 matches ago. Take it outside, boss. You know what I mean?
Take it outside, boss.
Yep.
Exactly. Let us enjoy the show. We paid to see the show in the ring, not the side show out in the stands. On that note, I got to bring up a little Wrestle Talk history. I think you'll appreciate this. Our brother, who has now left us, Rick Rose.
Yep.
Okay,
yeah,
so
baby.
check this out. And before we move on to the next high spot topic, and by the way, guys, please spread the word. The Facebook comments are malfunctioning, not our fault. It's more of a service provider fault. We are able to see your comments posted on YouTube, though. So if you're enjoying the broadcast and you want to be a part of the conversation, either send myself or Sunny Money a text or a direct message, and we'll bring you on. We'll send you the link. Or if you just want to be in the comment section, go over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, find the video, and drop your comments, and we'll be able to share them here. But here we go. Rick Rose. So you and I are on the front row at a Metro Pro show.
Yep.
And behind us is good old Rick Rose. God rest his soul. And in the ring is legend, straight up, unquestionable legend of not just the tag team game, but professional wrestling in general. The one and only Mr. Rock and Roll himself, Ricky effing Morton. And guess what? He's in there doing his thing. Rock and roll, rock and roll. You guys know it. He gets over everywhere he goes. It's worked for 40 years, and it's going to work for another 40 years. Well, there just so happened to be our friend that was behind us. And he started talking so much shit to Ricky, bro. You're old. Do some wrestling moves. He was telling Ricky that nobody cared. Just being a total asshole and a nuisance. And now, if anybody who knows Rick, we love Rick. That was our brother. But that's just the way that Rick was, man. That's just how Rick was. He was just a shit-talking SOB. Well, man, right in the middle of the match, right in the middle of the rock and roll, Ricky turns over to him and says what, Sonny?
He says, there's an asshole in every single town. And
just like you.
Yeah.
Oh,
He goes, there's an asshole in every single town, buddy. And the whole crowd popped and laughed at Rick Rose. And you know what? Hey, again, I love Rick Rose, but that's what he deserved, bro.
Everybody, all right, so say this was like all the people sitting around him and he was right in the middle. Everyone went, whoa. Like everybody was trying to create some separation between themselves and good old Ricky Morton. So, guys, to Sonny's point, go to the show, have fun, get the crowd into it, be a part of it, but don't try to take the show over, okay? It's just disrespectful. And if you're a worker, and I'm going to say this from personal experience, guys, if you want us to keep our hands to ourselves, you should keep your hands to yourselves too. Because I went to a show, I shall name no names, but those who know, a wrestler took my hat, spilt my beer, and my hats, you know, I don't have a whole lot of them. I got about 15 of them. It's not a whole lot. But this was one of my favorite ones, and this wrestler took it, crumpled it up, and threw it on the ground where there was a bunch of other stuff on the ground, water, drinks, or whatever, and that was a $65 starter cap. So if you don't want us to touch you and respect your space, Mr. and Mrs. Professional Wrestler, I think you should do the same thing with the fans. There's a fine line there that has to be respected by both sides.
100% agree, Night Owl. So, bro, let's get off of this because I'm enjoying this, but I want to keep high spots rolling, dog.
Next topic.
Hit that randomizer, bro. Hit that randomizer. What's up, Mr. Herb Simmons? Big shout out to you, sir. Thank you for tuning in to Wrestle Talk Podcast this evening.
Always respect it. Always respect the legends. All right, next topic up on the randomizer. All right, and I'll go ahead and read it here. It says, with all the recent attention on CTE and concussions in sports as a whole, is it time to rethink safety measures in the world of professional wrestling? Sonny, I'm going to let you marinate on that one just for a second. Let me give you my initial thoughts, and then I'll come back and rebuttal.
Please do, okay? No doubt.
So here's my thing. We already talked a little football. We already talked a little baseball, right? We saw what happened with Tua, right? And the Miami Dolphins. He kind of seemed to have some sort of concussion symptoms. He was wobbly, fell on the ground. They let him finish the game, passed or didn't even go through concussion protocol, and then was allowed to come back the following week only to show symptoms and to be hurt again, right? Yeah, exactly. He kind of went all like seizure almost, right? It's like seizure mode after the second incident, and then they pulled him out, and there's some big investigation still going on or whatever. And of course, the NFL has led the pack over the years, or at least over the last couple of years since the movie Concussion came out with Will Smith, in trying to remedy. You can even see the ugly helmets, like the one George Kittle was wearing this weekend. It's like they're doing everything that they can. And basketball has done some things too. They've changed some of the rules. They've adjusted a little bit to try to minimize injuries, though you know how it is with any sport. It's going to happen. The one sport that has done nothing, Sonny, that has done absolutely nothing to try to up the safety of their talent is professional wrestling. They've introduced nothing new. The outside matting is nothing new. I mean, everything is the same as it was basically 70 years ago. When you just look at the layout of a pro wrestling show, it's the metal stairs and the metal poles and the edge of the ring that's really hard and the steel rope wrapped in about that much, whatever it is, plastic that they put on it. The turnbuckles, I mean, they're on there, but they can come out real easily. Then you got chairs and ladders and so it adds to the edge of professional wrestling. But ultimately, I think something needs to be done. I'm not advocating for everyone wearing a helmet when they go out and do professional wrestling, but I think something needs to be done. People far smarter than me are going to have to figure that out. But every other sport has done something to try to relegate some of these injuries, except for the sport of professional wrestling. And to be honest with you, bro, I got a serious problem with that because Stone Cold's career got cut short due to injury. I mean, we could go down the list of all the guys that could have had another 3, 4, 5, 6 years in the sport had it not been for injuries and the lack of precaution that people take in the world of professional wrestling when it comes to injury. Those are my thoughts, man. What are yours?
Complete bullshit, Night Owl. Have you not seen what WWE has done? Okay, listen. First of all, it's pro wrestling, my guy. It's not ballet. Listen, the only thing that you can do to prevent concussions or CTE or safety measures is not have these guys bump. You turn this into a fake boxing match. Okay? You turn this into a work boxing match where they only kick and they punch and they do not fall. These guys know the risk going into it. Okay? Now, with that being said, kudos to WWE. Because after Chris Benoit's tragedy and after Eddie Guerrero's tragedy, that WWE now has qualified doctors, not doctors from the 80s who were there just to pass out all the gimmicks to the boys in the back and making sure Hogan was sitting at 325, jacked, ripped, and ready to choke someone's head off. Qualified doctors now who overrule McMahon, who overrule Triple H, who overrule those guys. If there's a guy who cannot go out there and perform, he tells them, no, you cannot go out. Yeah, they'll go out and have something on the mic, so on and so forth. But, Night Owl, the way I look at it, brother, there's not much you can do. What can you do? Maybe a little bit more padding on the wrestling ring. You know what I mean? But even now, when you get a glimpse of training schools, or when you get a glimpse of certain wrestlers training for an upcoming match, now what I see in the ring that I never seen before was actual thick padding and mats. We know a guy who's training locally over there at Raytown who keeps trying to figure out his moonsault and dragon salt. He's landing on a mat, bro. 15 years ago, he would have been landing on plywood, dog. Plywood.
Okay, so my question to you, Sonny, my question to you is, do you think they've done enough? I don't think they've done nearly enough. And honestly, bro,
what did you do?
Okay. So did you watch Halloween Havoc? Okay, or did you see any of the highlights? Bro, the opening match was a ladder match. 6 different guys came off the top of the ladder onto another guy who was already on a ladder.
Yeah.
I mean, elbow pads.
That's what I know there's risk in injuries. They know there's risk in injuries. I've sat down with my 12-year-old son, your nephew, and we had long conversations about him joining football, bro. He's getting rocked in the head.
Honey, at least they were okay. Here's the last thing I'll say, because Mike is going to be ready to go with us here in just a matter of moments. He is in the dressing room. We've got his green M&Ms. We've got his Perrier and his Evian and Pellegrino as he requested. Everything, the room is set at 71.5 degrees, just the way that Mike requested it. He'll be with us in just a matter of moments, guys, and he'll be ready to share some stuff that I think that is going to be a game changer to anybody inside and outside the world of professional wrestling. So hang with us. Here's what I'm going to say, and I know I'm going to get booed out of the room for this, Sonny, but I just think about my son. your nephew, if he wanted to go in pro wrestling, what would we lose by putting some semblance of a helmet on some of these guys? Okay, what would be the harm in making sure that everybody wears elbow pads and knee pads and maybe back braces? Not Stone Cold wore the knee braces and things like that. I just feel like people are so opposed to taking any of those precautionary measures in pro wrestling because out of fear that it might make them look soft or weak or like they're not tough, or there's already a perception that wrestling's fake. So if we start adding all that stuff to it, then this, and that. Well, they do it in MMA. They got padded gloves. You know what I'm saying? So,
but that's a sport, bro. This is entertainment.
This is a sport. Pro wrestling is a sport, Sonny.
It is a sport, but it's also entertainment. I paid my $20 to go to AMC to watch the Marvels. If the Marvel Superman, Spider-Man stands on the corner of the edge and says, man, I might fall off a year because I'm on that ledge, maybe I need to put a rope so I can climb down safely, I'm going to be pissed and get up and walk away from the movie. These guys are real-life superheroes, my guy. We know what they know what they're signing up for. We know what they're signing up for. It's a car crash, dog. That's what it is. If they put helmets on, I'm done watching current wrestling. I'm done, like flat out, like because they know what they're signing up for. God forbid, I don't want no one to get injured. And you see my Facebook post all the time, every single weekend that there's a show. I said I hope there's a sellout, and I hope everybody walks away injury free. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Right.
But Night Owl, you pay the same amount of money as I do to go watch these guys hit a nasty spine buster, to hit a dope DDT, and you jump up as quick as I do out of my seat when those guys do it, because it's contact sports, brother. You know what I mean? And we're in such a day and age where everything has to be safety. And I get it, but on the other hand, it's like, dog, we knew what you're signing up for. I know what I'm turning on. At that point, I might as well listen to edited lyrics on my rap CDs from now on, big bro. Like I just
could have sworn I seen every Will Smith CD at your house last time.
Getting jiggy with it.
Hold on. So we do have a comment on this, and then I'll give you my final thoughts, and then we'll move on because we do have our first featured guest ready to go in the bullpen right here. Okay. I believe his title is treasurer of the Cauliflower Alley Club. If not, it's some very important role similar or even more prestigious than treasurer. We heard from him just some few moments ago. Forgive me if I messed that up. But Herb Simmons, and it reads, have you gave any thoughts to the lack of injuries from back in the day versus the current days? These guys, these days, they lack the ability to understand that it's a team. Back in the guys just took, and I'm going to kind of throw this word in here, better care of one another. That's something that cannot be discounted, and it's almost like he stole the words out of my mouth. Sonny, we're not going to be able to agree on this one. I'm okay with the guys gearing up a little bit more to be safer. You're not okay with it, and that's fine. That's what Wrestle Talk is all about. We're on opposite ends. But let's meet in the middle and agree on this. More precaution can be taken by the individuals in the ring by doing a couple of things. Training, right?
Yep.
Planning and coordinating things properly, and just taking care of each other, generally speaking. Guys, you don't have to throw.
Good professional wrestlers do that now today. Good professional wrestlers. Guys who take this sport, not the entertainment, but this sport seriously and put their time and their effort and their heart and their soul into this sport, they take care of each other. Now, a whole nother topic, and I can't wait to hear our first guest, Mike Chisholm, but guys back in the 70s, and all respect to you, Mr. Herb Simmons, guys back in the 70s weren't doing 450 planches to the floor.
Well, that's what he's saying. Why are they? It's unnecessary to be doing all of that. Bro, I'm telling you, go back and watch Halloween Havoc from Saturday.
Who doesn't enjoy? Me and you enjoy stories, bro. I enjoy
me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But you as much as anybody, Renee, you are a Pentagon Junior fan, dog.
I am. And I'm a Wesley fan.
You know what I mean? It's a different time. It's a different place, bro. And you got to understand, the bigger the moves, the bigger the risk. And that's why you say, I hope everybody walks away 10 fingers, 10 toes, and you're walking out of the building fine. Yeah, go take your aspirin, go put your ice pack on, and we'll see you next weekend. I'll see you on your next show. But that's what it is, big bro. You know, we're going to agree to disagree. And Renee, I'm glad we are, because this is what Wrestle Talk Podcast is about, bro.
Hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. Two quick things. Shout out to Wes Lee on becoming the new NXT North American champion.
Absolutely.
And then the latest news here via our boy Luke Skywalker Roberts, who is in the background keeping us abreast of everything going on. In the NXT Women's Tag Team match, the champions have retained. Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark looked like they'd won. Official came out, acknowledge and unseat illegal tag, and the champions retain. Just in case you're missing NXT, because you're right here with us on the WTP tonight for episode 415. Can you believe that, bro? Can you believe it?
Jeez,
Okay,
man.
it looks like our Facebook comments are back up. Yay! Love to hear that. That's good stuff. Thank you, Assad. Thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate it. But on that note, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our first featured guest of the evening. This is a gentleman that I had the pleasure of not only exchanging some words with, but I had the pleasure of sitting down and listening to what I would call a lecture, a life-changing lecture about discipline and fiscal responsibility. Again, hence the name of today's show, Fiscally Imposing. Hopefully Mike will appreciate that, right? Not physically imposing, but fiscally imposing. Ladies and gentlemen, he hails from the great country of Canada. He's got his own show. He runs a promotion, and the man's also got a sweet beard and a badass man bun. Without any further ado, amigos, welcome for the very first time here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, the one, the only, Mike Chisholm. We're not worthy, bro. We're not worthy. What's up, Mike? Uh-oh, Mike, we got an audio issue here. Not yet, bud.
Make sure you're not mute on your end there, Mike. Look
No,
at
he's
your.
not. Yeah, he's not muted on our end.
Okay.
How's that? Is that better?
Hey!
Look
there you
at
go.
that. Hey!
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I don't know why it muted me, but it muted me, so I unmuted it. Listen, you boys know how to bring somebody out. Oh my God, I will do my very best to try and live up to the hype. It will not happen, but I will do my very best.
I love to hear it. Well, let me introduce my co-host for the evening, Mike. This is Sonny Money Mayo, New Jersey / Philadelphia's own, now residing in the great city of Kansas City. Sonny, say what's up to Mike, man.
Good evening, Mr. Chisholm. Pleasure to meet you. Wish I could have met you in person out there like Renee did in Vegas. But, hey, man, nothing better than having you on as our first guest of Wrestle Talk Podcast this evening. So, pleasure to meet you, man. I can't wait to get this thing started.
Super happy to be here, man, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited about just what's happening with pro wrestling these days. It's emerged out of COVID, I believe, stronger and more resilient. And I think that when we have something that that tests our resilience, there's going to be people who are on the surface that fall away, and those who are entrenched are going to entrench that much deeper. And this show certainly is an example of that. I'm super excited to be here, and any way that I can contribute, I'm happy to do that as well.
Well, that is greatly appreciated here. And Sonny and I will take turns asking questions. Sonny, would you like to go first?
No, I know you've been waiting, brother. You even hit me on the personal message about
very excited
about our first guest, bro. So please go ahead, man, and I'm going to follow your lead tonight.
Okay, I appreciate that. So Mike, again, man, welcome, and thank you for making time for us. I know you're a busy guy. First thing right off the jump, we were just having a conversation about CTE in the sport of professional wrestling. I'm sure you heard at least the back end of that conversation. Yeah. Sonny's on the side of, yeah, the guys know what they're getting into. If you start putting helmets and knee pads and elbow pads and bubble wrap around my wrestlers, that's going to take the edge off of it for me, and I'm not going to watch anymore. And maybe I'm a little bit more on the conservative side, thinking more of like, my kid maybe one day wanted to get into professional wrestling. If you put a helmet or something on, does it take a little bit away from it? Potentially. But if it's going to extend my favorite wrestler's career for 3, 4, 5 years more, I think that's something that I would be willing to consider. where do you sit on the fact that almost every other sport has taken leaps and bounds when it comes to player safety, and professional wrestling, by my estimation, seems to have chosen to stand pat? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, first and foremost, I'm open to anything, and I think that if the performers could drive something like that, I would love to see a hand in the ring show up with some sort of a protective device on their head and get it over. First and foremost, I think that would be really cool. I think you could integrate that with any character that wanted to come out and integrate that with their persona in the professional wrestling business could go ahead and do that and try that. Now, when it comes to regulation, I'm a Canadian, right? We still have fighting in hockey.
That's right.
And it's literally it's a sport, an international sport that literally has a penalty in the sport for fighting. I am all for safety. I am all for having, back in the day, we used to watch, guys like, Eddie Guerrero or Chris Jericho on Monday Night Raw finish a match, and it was a badge of honor to be a Hunter. Look at Hunter when he tore his quad, finishing a match. And that was a badge of honor. The idea that organizations have taken that away from the performers is a good thing, and that they've put a governor on the performers. That is a good thing. I think it is up to organizations to monitor the injuries, and if somebody does have a concussion, to take it extremely seriously. You mentioned Chris Benoit earlier, the diving headbutt, things like that. Yep. I do believe that there are governors that should be put onto the performers. Helmets is an interesting one, man. I mean, it'd be very interesting to see.
It's the biggest one. The CTE and head injuries, I think, is the biggest issue. That's why I bring that one up specifically.
Well,
absolutely.
And I agree with you there, Mike, though. Like if you could get a gimmick over, like kind of like Farouk when he first came into the WWF and he had that gladiator. He had that gladiator
with the
helmet.
vest.
Yeah. If you had the vest and the gladiator helmet and you can incorporate that into a gimmick, then sure. But you know what? 20 guys on that card can't incorporate that into some type of gimmick. So
I'm going to throw this at you. I remember back in the day with the NHL when players didn't wear helmets, and then they kind of mandated them, and it became to the point where there was optional. And you had Craig McTavish all the way up to 1988 who didn't wear a helmet, but the rest of the league did. He was the last guy to not wear one. You could, if you had a group of people who decided to get it over, it could be done. I think anything can be done in pro wrestling. I think it's that open. But having it mandated is a very interesting idea. I don't know about mandating that, but mandating the safety around it, the awareness around it, and like Chris Nowinski and I think of the pioneers of some people who have brought this knowledge into the sport, and I look at it as a sport as well. I think that's a good thing. Time will tell, man. You want to see a group mandate something like that. The other promotions are clearly going to jump on that by saying, well, we won't do that to our wrestlers.
Right.
I look at the Fed's wellness policy, whereas a lot of other groups don't have wellness policies, and they try and use that as an advantage. Very, very interesting. But at the end of the day, concussions are very real. I'm glad they're taking it seriously across the board in all sports, and I think pro wrestling is included in that.
Now, I am going to go out on a limb, and I may be putting you guys on the spot, but if you could pick one guy or girl today to get it over, who would you pick? And I already know who I would go with. This man happens to be a Canadian, but I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to let you guys tell me who you think would be best suited to put something like that over. I'm curious. Or if you want to go first. You want me to go first so you have some time to think about it?
I would have to say, with just the way he is on the mic and everything that he's done, and he's so versatile, that Sami Zayn possibly could do something like that.
That's
you know what I mean? Because he can adapt to so many situations. He's a great babyface. He's a great heel. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. So if he was just like, hey, I'm scared shitless that the bloodline's going to come after me, I'm putting a helmet on, hey, WWE's going to market that, and you're going to see kids out in the crowd.
The helmets.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Maybe the Canadian flag on the side of the helmet or something like that. Gimmick the helmets up. So what do you think, Mike? Who could be one of
I think it's got to be a heel too. I think, I think back to when Kurt Angle wore the headgear because of I thought that was
so
just one of the
good.
funniest things in the world. I think
cool.
Austin Theory would be a pretty good example of somebody who could take something like that and get it over. And I mean, it's like the old bionic elbow within Lex Luger's arm. I mean, he use it as a weapon. The idea of him taking pictures of it and that sort of thing, accessorizing, and then just using it. I think Austin Theory could get that over.
I love it. And guess what? You're both wrong, and you both just made the list. Guys, there's only one guy in professional wrestling that could get it over. And again, I gave you guys a clue. I thought you were going to figure me out. It's got to be the Ocho, baby. It's got to be Chris freaking Jericho. That guy could sell snow to an igloo, tacos to a... Never mind, I'm not going to go there.
He could get anything over.
He could get anything over. I would give it to Jericho and go, look, bro, unlimited check. Get this thing over. And I'll tell you when the rubber will meet the road, when the companies start becoming liable for the CTE, just like this lawsuit in the NFL from a couple of years ago where the talent was starting to hold the company liable for some of the damage that they suffered years beyond their careers. I think it would be Jericho, and it's going to have to take something that involves lana, dollars, to actually get that ball moving in the right direction. So
listen, there's so many things that I want to talk to Mike Chisholm about, including
ahead,
including Invasion Championship Wrestling and all the financial things. And I can't wait to get down that path. But, I have to add on to here, part of pro wrestling is this right here, guys, the hair. The bald head. You can see Stone Cold going down the ring from the back, a picture from the back with no vest. You know it's Stone Cold because of that bald head. It's all this here, man. You know what I mean? So if you put a helmet on somebody, you can only customize a helmet, 100 different ways. There's thousands of pro wrestlers in the United States, Canada, all over the world. And again, man, and I piggyback off of what I said in High Spots. If we get to that point, I might as well take up Russian ballet and start getting my interest in that, and we'll have the Russian ballet podcast on Tuesday nights instead of Wrestle Talk podcast.
I don't know. I got to disagree with you on that, because if it became mandated and went across the all of the different promotions, and this just became a thing, you'd have the gals holding their helmet beside them, cutting a promo, doing their personality, that kind of thing, and then gearing up before a match. Anything can be adapted to, and the audience will accept anything if they have to. And I think the problem is what happens if it's inconsistent across everywhere. If it became consistent, pro wrestling would live on. It's seen so many different incarnations within its evolution, from the very beginning of Catch and all the way up to now. If it's mandated across the board, pro wrestling would survive.
I think it would be. And to Herb's point, Rick Steiner wore headgear during his career.
Josh Alexander now is rocking it, and he's getting over great with it, man. But you know what? ECW was so special, not because they were using unlicensed music and because they came on at 2 o'clock in the morning in the Sunshine Network. It's because WWF was finishing main event matches between Bret Hart and Diesel with the Schoolboy, as ECW was finishing matches between Sandman and Sabu by going through tables and chairs and all that. And now you ask any ECW wrestler, I watch shoot interviews all the time, not one of them regret it. Even Sabu himself, who's broken multiple bones, he does not regret it. He knew what he was getting into. He put his body on the line. Now, yes, I know that's the 90s and we're in the 2020s, but still, man, it's wrestling, guys. That's what they signed up for. Please do not put helmets on my wrestlers. I don't want that happening.
I love that. I love the different perspectives coming across here. Sonny, on that note, man, I know you said you had a lot of different questions, man. What else you got here for Mike tonight?
No, absolutely. So, I mean, hey, Wrestle Talk podcast, that's what we're here to talk. So, Mike, you are a co-founder of Invasion Championship Wrestling. Please talk to me about that. How did we get into that? How did you become a co-founder? Have you...
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a financial advisor by trade, and I've always loved wrestling. when I found out about the Wrestling Observer when I was about 19, 20 years old, I subscribed to it. It was I'm Canadian, and I would think that my enthusiasm for wrestling was at its zenith, probably during the Survivor Series in '97, with all that stuff with Bret Hart.
Yep.
Wrestling with Shadows shows up on A&E, and the intrigue was, I don't think it was ever at its higher than that. And I started to make a little bit of money. I was working for Costco Wholesale as a marketing guy, starting to make okay money. And I went to 3 Manias in a row. I went to 18, 19, and 20, had some phenomenal memories there. Feeling, you'll never have a feeling different when you see a moment like Rock and Hogan and you're in the room for it. There's a palpable feeling that just envelops you, and sweeps you away. And so I love that. As you know, after 20, and different things, the enthusiasm faded a little bit as you have running mates that get married and move away and do all these things. You get into your late 20s, and people have kids.
Just life,
right? And so I was always a fan, but that level of fandom kind of was in the rearview mirror a little bit. And then I started building my financial advising practice on the side of my Costco job, and I started building it. And I met a guy who had some experience in the indie wrestling business, who was kind of a business mentor of mine, and at the same time, he knew I loved giving back to the community. And so most people in the financial world, when they give back to the community, they do it for like a golf tournament or a walk or something like that. Right. This other gentleman said to me, he goes, "We should put on a wrestling event." And I kind of looked at him and what do you mean? He goes, "Well, we'll treat it like a business. And we will raise money for the community." And that's exactly what we did. We kind of took a golf tournament model and focused it around a wrestling event. Everyone thought we were crazy. And we called it Kelowna Invasion. We're from the city of Kelowna. We called it Invasion, kind of to piggyback off of we're a new promotion. Thought we weren't even a promotion. It was a one event that night. He had some contacts in the wrestling business, including the legendary. I don't know if this guy would even hit your guys' radar, but he was a territory guy. He was around forever. Street Fighter Tim Flowers. Tim Flowers he was 40 year vet. Lots of stories in the business. He was our booker, and we all knew our role. So there were 3 of us. Tim handled the wrestling part of it, where we brought in indie wrestlers from the Pacific Northwest in the U.S., the Lower Mainland, Vancouver area, and where we're from in Kelowna, in British Columbia here. And then we hired Ed Leslie. We brought him in as the draw, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And everybody thought we were crazy. All right. But we ran it like a business. We were in the black before one ticket was sold. And we knew we were going to raise money for the Children's Hospital, even without any ticket sales. Okay. So we knew we were there, but we knew that it was going to be okay, but we were unprepared. We actually raised $15,000 in one night for the BC Children's Hospital.
Wow.
And what we didn't account for was that the 400 people that showed up for the event now suddenly were like, when's the next one?
Yep.
And we kind of looked at each other because you know how wrestling fans are. It's like, oh, this is a promotion now. It's not just Kelowna Invasion. This is a promotion.
Exactly. Yep.
And we kind of looked at each other and were like, oh, we're on to something. And so we booked Kelowna Invasion 2. We brought in Val Venus for 6 months later, and we were so. I'm not trying to Mike, the other gentleman that I was talking about, the other part of the equation, the other co-founder. There are 3 of us, Mike, Tim, and I. Mike was so brilliant when it came to the business of things. And I learned so much from him. I was more the sponsorship guy, the community guy. I didn't really get invited behind the curtain, even though, as an observer, subscriber, and all that stuff, I thought I was smart. I wasn't, not even close. It was after Kelowna Invasion 3 that I got smartened up, and I actually did get invited behind the curtain, and I realized and recognized how much I really had to learn. But yeah, Mike was so smart. He's like, no, you're not going to run more than twice a year. We're going to know our role. We're going to know where our place is. We're going to hit our sweet spot. We ended up running 2 cities for every Kelowna Invasion event. We started doing them in late April and October. Kelowna on the Friday night, Vernon on the Saturday night. And over the run, we raised over $250,000 for local charities. We've had guys like Mick Foley up here twice, Jeff Jarrett, Tommy Dreamer came up here, Ted DiBiase came up here, Jimmy Hart, Harry Smith, multiple times, Gangrel. Oh man, I can't even. Chelsea Green. The Bollywood Boys wrestled their very last match before getting called up to the Fed for us. We love that.
Wow.
And by the way, the young up and coming star who we're so excited about. And I mean, you guys should do an episode on Buddy Wayne. I don't know if you know Buddy Wayne from the Pacific Northwest, but Nick Wayne wrestled his very first match for us. Nick Wayne, he reffed as a 12-year-old, one of his dad's matches for us.
Right.
Buddy Wayne used to come up and wrestle in our shows and be part of our shows with some of his students. Nick reffed a match, and then at 14, after Buddy passed away, he wrestled his very first match. We did a tribute match for Buddy. So I've just done a lot of talking, boys, which you see I can't do. I'm a promoter. I'm able to do that.
Hey,
I apologize if I've talked your ears off, but that's kind of a
man.
nutshell of the history of us.
No, that's exactly what we brought you on for. I mean, to talk about not only what you got going on up there in Canada, but what you also did at the CAC. And shout out to Mr. Herb Simmons for even mentioning that there. He's putting you over big time, and as it should be.
I appreciate that, Herb. Thank you.
Yeah, but Night Owl, I mean, you got to be there in Vegas, and you got to check out what Mike was doing here, and he did the seminar, Pinning Your Financial Future, financial concepts that pro wrestlers can understand. Night Owl, I mean, did you get to attend that, or I know you had a lot of things going on in Vegas, my guy. Did you get the chance to check that out, or?
I absolutely did, and I'm going to get into that. That's actually probably the most intriguing part of the weekend for me. Was I expected to be entertained there, but I did not expect to be educated there. And by participating in the seminar with Mike, I received a life-changing education that pertained and revolved around the world of professional wrestling, which makes things easier for me because I like to learn with things I'm entertained by instead of opening up a textbook and falling asleep, drooling all over it. Okay. And Mike was able to do that. Right. So before I get to that, there are 2 pictures that I want to go ahead and share and show, and I just want to get Mike's immediate reaction to the images. Are you guys okay with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
Okay, let me go ahead and do a screen share here real quick. And here's the first one. How did it feel, man? How did it feel?
Well, you know what? It was neat reconnecting with Jeff because he had come and worked for, I think it was Kelowna Invasion 6. And that was a lot of fun. That was when he was doing the Global Force thing, and we had some really good business talks. I'll tell you this: I learned more about the business side of professional wrestling from that man in a couple lunches and a couple really cool talks in the back. That is a world-class mind right there. And reconnecting with Jeff has been the first time I saw him in a few years, and seeing him as healthy and as clear-minded as he is right now, it was just so encouraging to see him. You see the smile on the faces there. I mean, I'm just so happy that Jeff is where he's at right now. And boy, what an unprecedented career that guy has had.
Well, you know what blew my mind, Mike? Before this weekend, before CAC weekend, I had no idea who Teeny Jarrett was. And to hear those stories from him, and the panel, and his dad was in the building and everything. I mean, it was kind of a life-changing thing. So we're gonna jump from that to this picture. Number 2. There's a guy that popped out of nowhere, man. Talk to us about RVD, possibly the coolest guy in the building that night in a room full of a lot of cool people.
Well, and understated cool. He doesn't have to even, put on anything flashy or what. He just is. The thing I love about RVD, and I we wanted to book him for Invasion, but our parameters of fees of some of these guys, some of these guys were just out of the ballpark. But I've met Rob a couple of times, and he has an energy about him. It's a chillax energy, which probably not a surprise to people, but
Right.
it's so. I just appreciate his outlook on life so much. And I'll tell you this: if you haven't watched the doc on the WWE Network about Rob Van Dam, it is fascinating. I highly recommend it. Talking about all his ups and downs, and just I highly recommend that. Rob Van Dam has a lot more depth, I think, than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yep.
No doubt about it. I have a Rob Van Dam story that I would share right now, but I don't think it's age appropriate. So maybe I'll share that one with you in private, Mike. Sonny, you see what you missed out on. And I know it wasn't on purpose. I know you had family stuff going on, so I'm only giving you cheap heat here. But dude, these were the people that we were rubbing elbows with, and Rob wasn't even being recognized. Zabu wasn't even being recognized. They were there because they knew how special that weekend was, and it was such an honor to be there for the 56th anniversary. Now, on to what I've been wanting to talk about, unless somebody wanted to cut in.
Hey, can I say something about Cauliflower Alley real quick?
Of course.
Okay, so I'm just going to say this to anybody, especially who is in the professional wrestling business, okay? Enthusiasts, yes, absolutely, but I will tell you this. Cauliflower Alley, as far as I'm concerned, should be an epic event that has 5,000 people at it every year. And I understand that it's a storied, traditional, we got a crib tournament there. Okay, I get that. There are ways that we could probably youthen it up a little bit. But I'm just going to say this. Anybody, whether they are a worker in the business or a hand in the ring, somebody who's a referee, a promoter, if you volunteer at a local or an commentary wrestling event.
If you're a commentary guy, I'm going to add
commentary guy.
Ring announcers.
Absolutely. Anybody who's involved in pro wrestling at all. Number one, I believe you should become a member of Cauliflower Alley. And number two, I think you should come to the reunion. It astounds me, and I've been talking with some of the folks who are on the board and the leadership of CAC. I'm good friends with Ron Hutchinson and some of these other people. That's how I got the two seminars. I also interviewed Sam Houston at the
that one was classic. Yeah, and by the
that was a lot of fun.
Shout out to Ron and shout out to Brian Blair as well. Incredible.
Absolutely,
hosts. Love you guys. But
anybody in the business and fans too. Fans are there's a fan component here, but anybody who's in the business, especially if I talked about this a little bit in the financial seminar. If you're a wrestler, you are a business person. You are your own business. You are in business for yourself. And I can tell you this: there are promotions from all over North America that are there. All right. Networking is extremely important. It's the number one form of marketing. And I think back to the storied tradition of this thing that we love so much. And you think about back in the territory days, there'd be a couple times a year where all of the territory owners would get together. And there are pictures of this. You can find pictures of this. What would they talk about? They would be talking about talent and going back and forth with things and all that. If you're in business for yourself, why not get in a room with a whole bunch of other people that are in business for themselves, promoters, and the storied history of the CACs it's phenomenal. And I think that every single person who is in the pro wrestling business at all, at any level, should be a member with the Cauliflower Alley Club and should come to the reunion every year. And I think that this leadership that has been there, that has worked so hard to continue the legacy of it, I believe a new life needs to come in to put some wind in their sails so we can change the game for the CACs. And I think that needs to happen. So I just want to throw that out there. It's extremely important. I had imposter syndrome with that. I didn't think I belonged there.
Same.
Until I went the first time.
Same. I felt like an imposter being there. I'm going to be honest. I really did.
But you're not, though. Like that's the thing. Like you walk
in. That's legit.
And you feel like it at first, but no. Even if you're a volunteer, if you take tickets at an event, if you bring the gear back to the back, if you set up chairs, if you whatever, you should be part of Cauliflower Alley. You are welcome and become part of the of this amazing fraternity. So that's my plug for Cauliflower Alley. It's from the heart.
No, and I'm with you. And by the way, two things: old school is cool, guys. And number two, there were a few 30-somethings there, your boy included. So it's cool enough for you to go there. And by the way, Medusa, John Arezzi were hosting. So need I say more? They did such an absolutely phenomenal job. And the last thing I wanted to add to your point is I'm going to take it a step further and say I think it should be a requirement. Sure. If you really care about this business and are going to make a living at this or attempt to make a living at it, it should be like going to college or like to some sort of trade school. And there should be almost a card like I've been to CAC, because when somebody shows me that they've been to CAC, they don't need to say anything else about their pro wrestling fanhood. I understand where they stand. I can somewhat understand where they came from. And I know, most importantly, the respect that they have for it if they were to be a card-carrying member of the CAC. And no, we're not being paid for this. So just know.
No.
This is authentic, people. Not even a little bit.
This is for the love of the game. And that's what it is. Yeah,
man, because I'm telling you, man, OGs are cool, man. You sit around and you're hanging out and Bob Orton is playing cribbage with your buddy. And JBL stops by and he's like, "What's up, fellas?" And you're just hanging out. I mean, it's
okay. That was a crazy night. Did I tell you about that night? Like, so Kevin Jeffries, old school WWF referee and Stampede Wrestling referee and performer, we get a message from James Beard. I don't know if you know who James Beard is, but
absolutely.
Okay, so legendary referee, and he's the guy that inducted JBL, and he sends us this message saying, "Hey, we're going to the bar with JBL," and I was like, "Okay." And so we went. There was 5 of us, and we went to a bar. And the moment we walked in, so walking down Fremont with JBL beside you is so interesting because he's not wearing the cowboy hat, and you're walking by, but he's gigantic, and people are like,
"Big dude," the
whole way down. We closed the bar down. We're there till about 2:33 in the morning. Oh, going out and drinking with JBL. It was unbelievable. The stories, most of which I cannot repeat here, were incredible. But just the man's capacity to be able to drink, I was like my brain melted outside of my head. That was a lot of fun. And
awesome.
These are the things that happen. You're all equal when you go to these places. So come to Cauliflower Alley, have experiences of a lifetime, and learn some things. Like you said, man, the transfer of knowledge is extremely important.
Well, let's get into that.
These masters is just there's no better opportunity to learn from masters of this craft.
Okay, and here's where we make you blush, Mike. You are a master. Okay, maybe not at cribbage because I know you got eliminated by my boy Skywalker. It's okay, it happened.
Yeah, I know it happened.
I know. You did a phenomenal job, and it was very, very competitive. And also, Rob he eliminated Bob, which was cool. Yep. And I thought Bob Orton was going to put him through a table, but Rob, he's a smart guy. He says, "Hey, win or lose, I owe you a Heineken." I think that's how he staved off good old Bob Orton. but anyway, okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing because I think this is the most important part of all. So when I say you yourself are a master, and I know you're a Star Wars guy, what you brought to the table, and I filmed parts of it. I haven't released any of it. I wanted to get your permission first to release it in snippets to see if we can help some other people out. Sure. But you found a way of correlating professional wrestling and business, which are my 2 loves, outside of my familia, of course, and a few other hobbies that I have. But can you, in a simple kind of crayon type fashion, rehash some of the things that you talked to us about? Because you've kind of alluded and you've kind of dropped a couple of tidbits here and there, Hansel and Gretel style, about what you talked about. But I want to give you the floor completely to kind of give folks an idea of what we discussed that day and why it's so important to them, not only as fans, as people in the business, but as individuals as well. So I'll go ahead and give you the floor because I think it's highly intriguing and also could be something that could be life-changing. So go ahead, Mike.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that very much. A couple of years ago when I was at the event, this is before COVID, the one right before COVID, I was sitting with Hutch and we were having beers and talking about just solving the world's problems and talking about the event. And he knew I was a financial guy and had a moderately successful business and I was good at teaching this kind of stuff. And we were talking about it. And the whole reason Cauliflower Alley exists is because you know, as you both know, I'm preaching to the choir, and most of your audience as well. You know, a lot of wrestlers, especially the ones who don't necessarily make it, you know, they break down their bodies. I mean, this is the discussion we were talking about earlier. You know, with helmets and things like that. There's a lot of wrestlers that don't have a governor, and they go and they give all that they have, including their health. And so when you look at the Cauliflower Alley Club and the benevolent fund that they have, that's for wrestlers who get on later on in life, or they get to a place where maybe they've got some health concerns, or they've got some bills, health bills, you know, situations where they're financially in trouble. There's a benevolent fund that helps out these guys and gals who have literally broken their bodies for this art, this craft. And so that's why the Cauliflower Alley exists. And so when I said to Hutch, I said, you know, what if we were to be proactive rather than reactive as well with Cauliflower Alley? What if there was a way that we could maybe, you know, Jim Ross talks about it all the time. I love Jim Ross when he goes out and, hey, save your money, kid, save your money, kid, save your money, kid. He says it all the time. And it's the truth. There are so many little teeny tiny things where if you just started out your career from a financial standpoint, little habits that you would get into, later on in life, you could be somebody who, instead of receives from the benevolent fund, could actually give and help grow the benevolent fund to help others and to be proactive with things. And so Hutch thought about that, and he said, you know what, that's actually a pretty good idea. Leave it with me. And then the next year he's like, hey, you know what, we want to do a financial seminar. And that was COVID and all that stuff. So this is the first year that I've been able to get back since that year. And he asked me if I would be willing to do it. And since then, you know, I've started 2 podcasts, and I've gotten pretty good at, well, I was already pretty good at talking, as you can tell. Again, wrestling promoters know how to talk. But I got to the point where, you know, I've been teaching a lot of this stuff anyway to people. And the idea originally was, you know, the concept of the meeting was financial fundamentals even a pro wrestler can understand, and it was said tongue in cheek, right? And of course we, you know, but that was the idea, is that we simplify it. So, you know, I brought in with me, you know, 4 or 5 financial concepts that aren't attached to any product. They're not attached to any company. They're just like Cauliflower Alley, non-denominational. You can have any promotion there whatsoever. And by the way, we should. AEW should be there. You know, look at Al Snow. He should have an OVW booth there.
Totally
Non-denominational. But that's really what it was. And I came up with some concepts about saving money, teaching people how money grows, how money, you know, money is an energetic thing. It is. If you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, it talks about how money has an energy around it. And there are things about money that are fundamental and predictable. And if you do things right, you can actually set your course, you know, very, very easily and simply. And money is actually not that difficult to understand. And I gave 4 or 5 examples of how it's not difficult to understand. And I think we had 40 or 50 people there, which is great. But the way I look at it, and I said this to Hutch afterwards, I said, look, I'm not done. You want me to do this every single year? We want to make this a component of the CACs. Let's do it. So folks won't have to focus so much on the benevolent fund, but can actually put money into it. And when you got somebody who's young and they're starting to make some money at this wrestling thing, whether it's on the side, whatever, there's a lot of little things that are easy to do, but also easy not to do, but have insane consequences on the other side. So once again, talk your ear off. I apologize. Is that what you're looking for? Did I sum it up okay? Is that right? You were in the room.
I thought that was perfect. I guess the only thing that I would add, and just to kind of make sure that we kind of dot the I and cross the T's, is
yes, sir.
What I took away from it the most was it's never too late to start.
Absolutely.
Putting your money in a place where there are no guarantees in investing, right? I remember you saying that,
yeah.
But there are strategic ways to invest your money that almost assuredly you won't regret. And
Absolutely.
I remember you gave the example of, you know, if you're 22, 23, and you start talking about, you know, this money starting to accumulate interest, putting it in the right place. I know you talked about, you know, CDs or things that our parents all told us about that maybe aren't quite as efficient as we maybe were led to believe. I'll let people reach out to you directly if they want more specific information. And of course, guys, if you're going to CAC, there's a lot of things to see, a lot of different conversations and interviews. And all of them will change your perspective in a sense, but I'm not so sure that all of them have the capability of changing your life and the trajectory of your family's life the way that Mike's seminar did, because it kind of took it out. No, listen, I appreciate you, man, because you didn't have to do this, bro. You know what I mean? You didn't have to do that. You're doing well. You've got your company. You've got a lot of respect in the community already. But I think just from perceiving your presentation that you did it out of the goodness of your heart to try to give back to the pro wrestling community, which sounds like has given a lot to you already.
It has, and I appreciate it so much, because when I got into it, you know what? I'll tell you what the pro wrestling has given me: acceptance. It gave me a way that, through my firm, I can give back to the community that isn't a walk or a golf tournament. No offense to those guys.
No, they're good too.
But
they're good too.
but and because of that, I got invited behind the curtain, and I got to. I'll tell you this: I had a lot of people come up to me and ask me about the financial stuff. I had 3 indie promoters come up to me and ask me about the idea of, okay, well, what do you mean you were in the black before 1 ticket was sold? Like, what do you mean by that? And I don't care. We did it for charity. We didn't do it for profit. We did it for charity. I'll open the entire playbook. And give people ideas about sponsorship and ways to actually run it like a business, because it's the pro wrestling business. And there are a lot of promoters out there that run it as the pro wrestling hobby or the pro wrestling vanity project. And I'm not trying to make any waves with anybody, but
preach.
If you're in the business, then don't you want to stay in business? Isn't that the number one rule of business, is stay in business? And there are ways that you can do it very easily, and be profitable moderately. And I've learned a lot. Like, again, when I got smartened up after the third invasion, I was given a whole bunch of different business lessons as to what makes a good promotion, but also what makes a profitable promotion. And it certainly wasn't a lot of the ways that as a wrestling fan I thought. So getting smartened up to that stuff, it was essential. I'm so grateful. I'll never not be grateful for it. And if this is a way that I can give back to this business, I never worked in the ring. I wasn't a hand in the ring.
Same.
But if I can find ways to give back and to help folks, I've got, like Liam Neeson says, I have a special set of skills that it's just very unique, and I'm willing to share it with anybody.
Love it. Sonny Money, you're a family man. The word money is in your moniker, man. I know you're getting the energy similar to what I caught at CAC just a couple of weekends ago, man. Your thoughts on what you heard here so far from Mike Chisholm?
No, it's spectacular, man. And I wish we could go for another 9 hours, because I know Mike could just drop so many jewels of knowledge. But, not only besides that, Mike, I mean, you also got your hands on some other things here, man. As a host of the Letterman podcast, host of the E-Cast. But, there's one thing that I'd like for you to kind of speak on, and it's kind of hitting a little bit close to home here also with me. You're the best-selling author of She Changed Me, One Ordeal, Two Perspectives, a book of the collection of lessons you learned while your then 18-month-old granddaughter was being treated for cancer at the hospital. And the reason I bring that up, my oldest son, Nicholas, we go in for his MRI this upcoming Thursday. He will be having a major open heart surgery in the near future. So a little bit of relatable there, man. But can you kind of talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. Just give me 1 sec. I'm just going to grab something off the shelf here.
Sure.
Sonny, just when I thought this interview couldn't get any better, you know how closely
my
cancer has hit home. Just wanted to finish this thought, Mike. You know how closely cancer has hit home here in the Martinez household.
Yep.
So thank you so much for bringing this up, man. I appreciate you. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I appreciate it too. I'll talk about it, to anybody who will listen, because at the end of the day, family is everything. And, I hate to say fortunate, but we were fortunate to go through. My granddaughter is my best friend in the world. Like, she is my absolute best friend in the entire world. Here's the cover to my phone. I don't know if you can see her little 4-year-old.
A little closer. Just a little closer.
Yeah, look at her.
Perfect. That's wonderful, man.
You
What
know,
a blessing.
she's 4, and she is just my best friend in the whole world. When she was 18 months, I got a picture of her when she was 4 days old, being held by Mick Foley. One of the Kelowna invasions. The day she was being born, I actually had to go to a press conference while she was being born to hand out checks to all these charities and to hype up Friday night's match. Well, she was born, I think it was on a Monday or Tuesday. On the Friday night was the match. And I've got pictures of Mick holding my brand new granddaughter. She is my best friend in the whole world. When she was 18 months old, we found out she had a tumor the size of my fist behind her tailbone. 18 months. And we found out about it on Christmas Eve of 2019. We went down to Vancouver, strangers in a strange land, to the Children's Hospital. Our kids with her got to stay at Ronald McDonald House. My wife and I, who our granddaughter's our best friend in the world, we're like, we're not leaving. And so we thought we were getting a cyst removed. It turned out to be cancerous. And we left. We went down there the day after Christmas. We didn't come home until the end of April.
Wow.
And yeah, the surgery, 7-hour intense surgery. They went in from the front and the back, and then 4 rounds of chemo. And so, as you can imagine, as you both know, cancer's gone through your family. Sonny, you got stuff going on in your world. And I'm so sorry to hear that. We, along the way, and this is what they don't necessarily tell you, you're strangers in a strange land. Cancer has a lot of downtime. Certainly there are moments of high anxiety and high impact, but then there's also a lot of downtime. And so during that downtime, my wife and I learned a lot. And we thought, well, how can we turn this negative into a positive? And thank God Alara's okay. It all worked out really, really well. We're so grateful for that, but we learned a lot. And so my wife and I decided to write a book. And if you look, there's the cover. She Changed Me, One Ordeal, Two Perspectives, Candace Chisholm. You read till halfway through the book. Then there's the pictures of all of us, Alara coming home healthy. Okay. When you flip the book, it's She Changed Me, One Ordeal, Two Perspectives by Mike Chisholm. And it's the lessons that I learned. And we both wrote, we had an editor in our life that helped us, and she helped us shape how long each of our chapters or our books were going to be. And we both wrote down the lessons that we learned independently of each other. And once the manuscripts were done, about 2 weeks before publishing, Candy and I sat down on my wife's name is Candy. We sat down on different sides of the couch, and she read my part and I read her part. It was the weirdest date night ever. And I'll tell you, the lessons that she learned were so vastly different from the lessons that I learned, and the male-female perspective was incredible. And so we thought, well, we went through this situation and we learned a lot. And so we thought, well, how can we turn this negative into a positive? And that's why we wrote She Changed Me, One Ordeal, Two Perspectives. And you can find it on Amazon if you want, but this certainly isn't a plug for anything tonight except for what you guys are doing. And I appreciate very, very much, just even being asked about that. Thank you very much.
No, absolutely, man. And like I said, Renee spoke on it. It's hitting close to home for him, and just any major medical issues. And I know everybody in the world goes through them, man, but it really puts in perspective how important family is. And yes, money's important, and shoot jobs are important, and wrestling's important to us 3 fans here tonight on Wrestle Talk Podcast. But at the end of the day, it's about family, man. You know what I mean? It's about family.
Well said.
Well, I'll tell you the number one thing. There's one thing out of there that self-care is extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And while we were down in Vancouver, Scotty Mack, who at that point was running ECCW, this is before the pandemic. Things have changed down there, but Scotty Mack knew that I was staying in Vancouver, and he said to me, Mike, if you need to get out, we're running a show at the Commodore Ballroom. Come on out. Just come be fed. And
Right.
and I'll tell you this: when you have somebody who is in your life that is mortally ill, potentially, I'll tell you this. I know it doesn't seem right, but self-care is the most important thing. Yep. It is so important for you to be strong. It's just like that analogy when you're on the airplane and the masks fall down. Mm-hmm. Even though you love your kid more than you love yourself, it's so important to put your mask on first and then their mask on. Yep. And you and your self-care when you're going through being the man, being the caregiver, being the rock for your family it is really important not to let yourself to go below the empty line. And so self-care is extremely important. And while we were down there, I even wrote it in the book, being invited to that event, he knew why I was down there. Being invited to that event, it really, really helped. Bill Burr came to town. I went and saw Bill Burr, and I laughed for 45 minutes.
Because that's a crazy man.
But when you have a family member that's ill, you think it's selfish. Men you think it's selfish to go and do that. It's not. It's essential. And that's one of the lessons that I learned. But as if you're going through this right now, if there's one thing I can tell you at the top of the very list, the very tippy top of the list, is make sure you exercise self-care, keep yourself strong so you can be strong for them.
Yep, and take it and have your outlets, man. And pro wrestling is my outlet. You know what I mean? I recently took up frisbee golf, disc golf. That is my outlet. That is my 3 hours to myself to not worry about the hospital bills and the wife and the kids and school and why Night Owl doesn't brush his teeth and everything along those lines. But no, absolutely, Mike. And I love everything about this interview, man. And like I said, I wish we could go another 9 hours. You know what I mean? But Night Owl, I'm throwing it over to you, man. I'm almost speechless at this point, brother.
Well, all I can say is I know that this interview is resonating with some people. Just reading a quick comment here. My father passed away from cancer in 2008. True inspiration for every firefighter and police officer. He was a real American hero. So we've all been touched by this. And Mike is just eloquent and intelligent enough to put it in writing for you guys, available on Amazon. Hit him up directly for more information. But more than anything else, I would like to say this. When you talked about the CAC earlier, you talked about the respect and the class in which the organization kind of carries itself.
Yep.
And I think by adding you to that lineup, they have continued to extend that legacy, Mike. So from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you. I look to reach out to you on a personal level as me and my family progress through our lives, as we try to set ourselves up to the future. So I'm going to be reaching out to you to maybe do a little consulting and get my finances right. I suggest that others would do the same, but if anything else, check out Mike. He's got great content. The Letterman stuff that he does is fantastic. He was in New York a couple of days ago, it seems like, pimping merch, doing his damn thing. And for me, it just comes down to this, man. You carry the baton of professional wrestling with such class and such dignity. You're a humble guy. You're funny as hell. And I just enjoy talking to you, whether it's in person like we did at CAC on the podcast. And just know that you're welcome back here on the Wrestle Talk podcast anytime. And welcome as the newest member of the Wrestle Talk family, Mike.
I appreciate it very, very much. I will come back anytime you guys want. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'm speechless with what you just said. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, brother. Before you go, last thing, tell us where people can check out your next show if you've got one coming up, or how they can find you on social media, pretty please.
So we're one of the things about this fundraiser with Invasion is that we're extremely conservative. And so since the pandemic, like, we're just, a month or two out of masks and things like that and all the stuff there. So, I'm going to have to say more to come on that, because we are talking about it, and what the next one's going to look like. And we've got some very, very cool ideas that are being,
we would love to break that news, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey man, we'll I'll tell it to you guys first when we want to announce. But that's where we're at right now. We're in the planning phases right now as to where things are going to go. It looks like we're on the other side of this pandemic, and that's really the big thing for us. I mean, when we're not going to run a show where every second seat has to be bare. We're not going to run a show where the energy is affected that way. We're just really conservative. And my hat off, by the way, to any promoter who was running things within the, like, I think about Al Snow, what they were doing at OVW and some of the other people I know in the business that ran through the pandemic, adhering to all the rules around them, but and the Fed, oh my gosh, the workers who performed under that, phenomenal. With our model, we're if we can't do it full bore, we're not doing it. There's too many variables, and so but it's coming. So we'll announce it here. Thank you guys for doing what you're doing. Keep indie wrestling alive. Keep the hype alive. Make it happen. And I just appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'll come back anytime you want me.
Love to hear it. Sonny, final thoughts?
No, absolutely, Mike. You absolutely have to come back, man. And please let me do the honors here with you now being on Wrestle Talk podcast tonight and doing this fantastic interview. And I'm going to go back and listen to it tomorrow, and I can't wait. But on behalf of the Night Owl and Sonny Money himself, I officially would like to welcome you to the Wrestle Talk podcast family.
I'm in. Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love. I appreciate you.
I don't know where that came from. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mike Chisholm, man. Make some noise, man. Come on, man.
Hey!
Get you next time, buddy. Take it easy.
Got it.
Woo! What did I tell you, bro? Mike effing Chisholm.
Yep.
Dude, class guy. And what's awesome is he doesn't need to do what he does for the world of professional wrestling, Sonny. He doesn't need to share that knowledge that he has, but he does it because of the love that he has, not only for the sport today, but the history of it. Moderating his own thing, being there as everybody was being inducted, man. We got to see Conan, who's dealing with his own health issues.
Right.
We got to see JBL. I got a Jerry the King Lawler story for you, Sonny. I'm not sure I can tell that one on the air, but Mike was you'll remember it. It involved a Catholic schoolgirl thing. So we might get into that some other time. But
Right.
We are going to hit a very brief break. We have a new song that recently came out by one of our faithful friends, Vince Sanity, and one of his buddies. So we're going to play about 2.5 minutes of that, and then we're coming right back with our second featured guest of the evening. That's right, back-to-back badass interviews here tonight for episode 415 of the Wrestle Talk podcast with the one and only Big Daddy P. Are you ready for it, Sonny?
Dog, I can't. Just as hype. I don't know. What am I supposed to say over here, bro? You're in me with two guests back to back that are both dope, bro. I can't
Bangers.
wait, dog.
Bangers.
Let's hear that dope new Vince Sanity song. I've already heard it, Night Owl.
It's called Savage,
let
baby.
The world hear it, bro.
Kooks, Vince Sanity, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes with the rest of Wrestle Talk Podcast episode 415. Let's play it.
I'm a savage. You don't choose to beef, you choose to cabbage. You don't want the smoke, you just a hoe afraid of action. I stay stuck to metal like a motherfucking magnet. Fully automatic, you keep it getting blasted. Why the fuck you mad? I got a bad bitch. I could fuck a pull 'em even when I never had it. Yeah, my ceiling high, bro, you gon' have to use the edit. I ain't never lacking, so miss me with that caption. Fuck this depression, it got me drinking more. Can't ever sit cause the future bright, I've been dreaming more. Life a movie, it's on. I smell like Gucci, that's my uniform. It talked about diluted forms. How you strip off what you ain't got, yeah, that's an envy. Never hesitate, others, so don't even tell me. I got family that's ready, I got the cannon, I'm fanning. I need the bands and the phantoms, ain't in no order, I'm guessing. I just need matches, turn this shit into ashes. They probably say that I'm classless, I'm laughing, can never phase me. Got bitches drinking them babies, it's protein, she don't need way. We drink codeine and sipping lately, it's hella making me lazy. I ain't average, I be posted where the motherfucking bag is. Why you fucking sleeping on this shit like it's a mattress? Run up with the mess, yeah, I be spicy, he's you mad bitch. Put him in the casket, you know I'm a savage. You don't choose to beef, you choose to cabbage. You don't want the smoke, you just a hoe afraid of action. I stay stuck to metal like a motherfucking magnet. Fully automatic, you keep it getting blasted. Why the fuck you mad? I got a bad bitch. I could fuck a pull 'em even when I never had it. Yeah, my ceiling high, bro, you gon' have to use the edit. I ain't never lacking, so miss me with that caption.
Shawty said she want my belt like I'm Inspector Gadget. I've been taking pictures lately, I can't think of captions. I've been talking shit cause I done been through all the action. Lights, camera, action, I do this with a passion. You do this for the asses. We be talking money, so just put me where the cash is. I was born a savage, you can keep the average. They be getting big mad at me me cause I got that status. Yeah, we the hottest faction. Yeah, they not liking the adaption. Yeah, but I can't blame them cause we waxing. Yeah, it's young Kush Burgundy the dragon. Yeah.
I'm a savage. You don't choose to beef, you choose to cabbage. You don't want the smoke, you just a hoe afraid of exit. I stay stuck to metal like a motherfucking magnet. Fully automatic, you trip and get to blasting. Why the fuck you mad? I got a bad bitch. I could fuck a pull 'em even when I never has it. Yeah, my ceiling high, bro, you gon' have to use to add it. I ain't never lagging, so miss me with that caption.
You don't choose to beef, you choose to cabbage. You don't want the smoke, you just a hoe afraid of action. I stay stuck to metal like a motherfucking magnet. Fully automatic, you trip and get to blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. That's right. We are back with more action here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. I cannot believe that we've still got another featured guest to go. Sonny Money Mayo. That was a very brief break. Give me your thoughts on Savage by Kooks featuring Vinsanity, baby.
Right up my alley, bro. You know how I am. I'm Mr. Hip Hop himself, all right? And Vinsanity and Kooks, they already came out with one banger earlier in the summer. Now they're leading us in these cold
Part
winter
2.
days. But them speakers are going to be on fire with that song blazing, bro. Mad dope. Shout out to them, bro.
And right. And we're going to get into Big Daddy P in just a second, man. But again, your thoughts on Mike Chisholm, the energy that he brought, the knowledge that he brought. What did you take away from that more than anything else?
What a great human being. What a great human being to give back to the wrestling community, which I wish a lot more wrestlers and promoters and fans in general would do. Everybody kind of plants their flag of, hey, I'm pure AEW and I'm pure this local promotion. Hey, that's fine. But, this is why I love being part of Wrestle Talk podcast, because we bring in all different shapes and sizes. We have no enemies here. Everybody is loved. If you love professional wrestling like the Night Owl and myself, bro, that's why you enjoy interviews like we just had with our first hour guest there, man. Great human being. I really wish I was in Vegas, and hey, it would have been cool, JBL, RBD, Sabu, and all that. But for that seminar, dog, man. Hey,
well, you're a family man like me, bro. Hey, listen, you're a family man like me, and I think we all think about this now that we're in our 30s, mid to late 30s. Like, how are we going to set up our family for success? And how are we going to set ourselves up for success? And it's not something that happens by accident. If you need more information on that, make sure you guys hit up Mike Chisholm, guys. Hit me up directly. I'll hook you up with him. He is an ambassador for all things good. Make sure you guys look him up on social media ASAP. On that note, Sonny, we got one last bit of business. Whoa, what happened? Sorry, guys, my camera's acting up. I'm a little too excited here tonight, and I apologize for that. It's been a few weeks, bro.
You didn't want to mention it. No, hold on. You didn't want to mention it.
What?
I'm going to mention it. I don't give a shit because I shoot straight from the hip. It's that damn empire. It's that damn empire that they got something to do with it. They got something to do with it. Damn them. I'm not going to get started on them tonight. But that damn empire, man, I know they have something to do with that.
I'm not going to address it here and now because we got far more important things to do. And by the way, they got handled this past weekend. So I'm just going to let actions speak for themselves. Now, Sonny, there was one last bit of business that I needed to get to before we got to our second featured guest. And that's, of course, thanking all the wonderful sponsors of the Wrestle Talk podcast. Royals Mills Transportation, our friend DeJuan Mills. Rathbun Engraving, creators of the Wrestle Talk podcast mug. Nobleman's Barber Lounge in Kansas City, Missouri. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Popeye Designs, of course, responsible for the brand new Wrestle Talk podcast tumbler. Get it engraved with your name on it for only $25 plus shipping. And, of course, the world's premier fantasy wrestling promotion, the Fantasy Wrestling Worldwide Chapter. On that note, Sonny Money, I'm going to actually let you do this introduction because I know this is a guy you have a great deal of respect for as well. So I'll give you the platform as we introduce our second featured guest of the evening, the one and only Big Daddy P. Take it away, Sonny.
Well, this gentleman is on a Wrestle Talk podcast, if not weekly, if not co-weekly, but he is a member of the Wrestle Talk podcast family. And you always see it on Wrestle Talk podcast social media. Send in your prayer request because this gentleman, he's going to shout you out. And hey, everybody has a prayer request. I have them daily, especially to this gentleman who we're going to be having the honor to have as our second hour guest tonight on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are as excited as I am right now. Please put your hands together. Please give them like, share, and comments for our second hour guest, the one and only Big Daddy P.
On the shoulders. What's up, my boy? What is up, Big Daddy P, baby? We are doing sweeter than that freaking t-shirt you're wearing, man. Talk to us about that t-shirt a little bit, baby. I love it. First of all,
this was a gift. This was a gift from one of my kids. And what's really cool about it is they know I'm a huge Hershey fan. I mean, I am. No, Hershey Kisses. The Hershey's. Right. But there's a description.
What's it say?
Says, like a human, but much cooler. And also knows how to solve all problems. See, Hershey knows how to solve all problems. Hershey is actually an answer to prayer, man, because I love chocolate. But there really is only one kind of chocolate, in my opinion.
What's that?
That's Hershey.
Hershey's chocolate. Number 2, Big Daddy P. We normally don't get to play that much of your intro. I know I've asked you this question before. You've got your own custom entrance theme song. Can you tell us a little bit what's behind all the head banging and the screaming? What's behind all of it?
The thing is, what you see on the front end is different than actually what the lyrics are. The song says, blessed with a death wish, referring to it's better to live with Christ than die as gain. So ultimately, there was a band called Fate of Adam, and I heard it. And I heard just how it opened up. And I thought, boy, that'd be a great opening song to get people fired up.
Your intro theme is so hard, bro. That intro theme goes harder than most of the wrestling themes that I hear. I mean, I'm serious.
Well, listen, Fate of Adam is the success of that song. They wrote that song. They gave me permission to use it. I added the Big Daddy P because everybody says, yeah, they always say Big Daddy P, but it's Big Daddy P. See, that P is the key.
Yes, Sonny, are you taking notes? It's Big Daddy P. You got it,
They
Sonny?
don't know what the P. Wait, but let's see if online we can.
It's got to be Preacher, right? Big Daddy Preacher?
Now, first of all, Drew's got a question. Am I an ordained minister? Absolutely. By the Lord Jesus Christ, when I was 31 years old, I accepted Christ as my Savior, and I knew why he gave me this big mouth. I couldn't understand why. Now it's to share his love. It's to share one another, man. It's to be able to be loving and caring. So thank you for the hug, Susan. I appreciate that. But P stands for preacher. It also stands for Big Daddy Perry. P isn't Perry. There's one other P we can't talk about because that's just Big Daddy P.
Hey, you know. I like that. wait, we got a drop for that. Got it. I don't know.
But listen. But seriously, if anybody knew how I got that name, they wouldn't believe it. I got that name in jail, man. I never went to jail my whole life. At 44 years old, I fell behind in child support. God dried me up. $1,500 a month. I got dried up, right? Well, what I didn't know is the week before I went to jail, there was a guy, my cellmate, who was going to get saved, and I didn't know that. So I come into jail, I come into the cell, and I'm like, finally, I get uninterrupted to read the Bible for 23 hours, no interruptions. So I start reading it, and all of a sudden I hear this faint voice, and this guy says, "Hey, do you know that book?" And I looked over, he was on the bottom bunk. I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I just got saved last week." He said, "Can you teach it to me? Can you tell me about it?" I said, "Absolutely." So that gave me a huge opportunity, and I realized why he sent me there. He dried me up because there were people, while they're passing drugs and they're passing all this kind of stuff, I've got 3 little runners who were passing scriptures and prayer requests between cells. And I was only there 10 days. But on the 10th day I was there, the night before, these guys were trying to sweat me because I was bringing my Big Daddy prayers. That's P is for prayer too, yes. So what ended up happening was they threatened me and said, if I come down with the Bible again tomorrow, I was going to get my ass beat. I said, really? So that night I'm laying there and I'm like, Lord, do I bring it down and get beat up? What do I do? He said, bring it down. I went down. All of a sudden I'm down there and I see in each corner, there's 4 different guys coming towards me. I'm like, here we go. All I could do is drop. You know what I mean? Drop and take it. Because even if I get the 2 in front, I still got
to get you out of that, yeah.
And I ain't Bruce Lee, man. I'm not. I'm just big. No. I'll fall on you. You know what I mean? So, but as they got close, all of a sudden, I heard an officer say, Hartman, get to your cell. I got bailed out. I was gone. Ooh. So that's when I learned even more to trust the Lord. So the name Big Daddy P came from jail from a guy named Phil, who they called him Big Phil, but compared to me, he was Little Phil. And when I stood up, I said, no, Phil, I'm big. He said, you are definitely big. So I was the only one able to call him Phil because I was bigger than he was. So, but look, God will do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. He doesn't need my permission. And that goes to all of you that are listening right now. Don't think we forgot about the prayer requests because we didn't. And I know
we're going to get to those.
No, we'll get to that. I promise I'll give you a snippet of truth. But the most important truth tonight is episode 415, which
yes.
is because the way you wrote it, it was ep.415. And I went Ephesians 4:15. I wonder what that is. And you're not going to believe, Renee, what Ephesians 4:15. It says, but speaking the truth in love. Now, you could speak the truth, but if it ain't in love, it ain't worth nothing. But if speaking the truth in love were to grow up in all aspects into him, who is the head, even Christ, for whom the whole body being fit and held together by every joint supplies according to the proper working of each individual part, causing the growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. Guys, that means us. He's using us to love and encourage one another because Jesus said, blessed are those who believe and don't see. The problem is you have to apply faith in order if you don't see something. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, things not seen. How strong is faith if you don't use it? And recently, the message that the Lord is giving me is this. If we would only ask. We don't ask. We don't include him.
Too arrogant.
We're too arrogant. No, it's not our fault. It's what we've been told. Yeah. It's been on the television, the radio. It's always been about, you don't need God. We don't need God. Oh, we need the Lord. We need the Lord in our schools. And first of all, for anybody who says you can take God out of anywhere is a jackass. He's omnipresent. You can't take him anywhere. Nope. If he wants to. And so anytime they would pray and say, okay, Holy Spirit, come in this room. Well, you can't get the Holy Spirit out of the room. You don't have the rights to do that. So while we say all these things that feel good, they truthfully don't have any meaning. It's like the man upstairs, right? Well, 1, there ain't no stairs that goes up there. 2, technically, it's God with us. He's inside me. When I accepted Christ as Savior, God became in me, and his power through the Spirit is what gets me through each and every day. We would not have met if it wasn't to the power of the Holy Spirit, Night Owl.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Shout out to the Masked Saint, by the way. Shout out to the Masked Saint, the film that brought Big Daddy P to the Wrestle Talk podcast. If it had not been for pro wrestling legend Chris Whaley, who deserves all of our respect
right.
for everything that he's done in the sport.
Who, by the way,
now,
he's getting back in the ring. He's got a show coming up November. He's got it coming
he's down
up.
in Florida.
In the ring.
Yeah, he's down in Florida, and again, we'll provide that information to you guys towards the end of the show. But if you guys haven't already seen it, the movie The Masked Saint, Perry, you played a part in the development of that movie, or at least in the promotional side of that movie. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I know you're kind of going back in history a bit to when we first linked up, but The Masked Saint did really, really well on Netflix during the time that it was on there. It may still be on there today, and it is the actual true life story of the masked wrestler, The Masked Saint, right?
Well, yeah. First of all, it's on Prime. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it's on there anymore. You can get it, but get it out. It was Roddy Piper's last film. Greater is he that's in me, that's in the world. Absolutely right, Susan. That's 100% correct. But The Masked Saint, yes, 2016 is how I actually got into the wrestling business, because when they wanted to promote the film, they weren't sure how they were going to promote it. And I said, we need to go grassroots. We need to start at an independent wrestling level, because they know Piper. They know they're wrestling fans, so they'll love it. So immediately I found the local wrestling organization. I met the owner. He said, man, have you ever thought about getting into this business? I said, no. He says, well, you're now the general manager of Tennessee All Pro Wrestling. And that's where it started.
Just like that.
And just within 2 seconds, I'm in the wrestling business.
It's that mouthpiece.
But the thing is, dude, if I would have known back when I was standing, when Hulk Hogan fought King Kong Bundy at the LA Sports Arena in that blue cage, if you remember, I was there that day. I was 13 years old. I think
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was at that event.
You never told that story.
But not only that, dude, I got lost from my dad, and I was stuck at the top of the escalator, and I heard behind me, excuse me, kid. I turned around. It was Hulk Hogan. I was 5'5", 5'6". I was tiny. He was huge. I put my hand on his arm, and my sister was on the other side on his arm, and my friend Token also saw it. So I'm looking forward to the day that I get to meet Hogan again and remind him of that wonderful time, because it was because of him that when I did accept Christ, I realized all the prayers, everything he talked about, which he's a born-again Christian without a doubt. By the way, there is no such thing as unborn again Christian. You're either in the family or you're not. But that's a whole other issue in itself.
Wow. Well, that's phenomenal for you to be able to tap into that. And I can't believe that after knowing you all this time, Perry, I didn't know that you had that experience. I know you're originally a California kid, right?
Yep, LA. West LA.
That's so dope and crazy. Now, Sonny, I know I could take over this interview and confiscate it throughout the remainder, because you know my relationship with Big Daddy P, who will be back in just a moment. But I know even you have said to me, because we received kind of some not always positive feedback. Hey, this is a pro wrestling podcast. Why are you guys, always bringing this guy on? I'm not necessarily, I don't believe what he believes. But you, before you even joined as a co-host, you always encouraged me. You're like, Night Owl, if you believe the FWWC is the right thing for Wrestle Talk, do it. If you believe Snippets of Truth is the right thing for Wrestle Talk, do it. So I want to allow you to speak to that, and then we'll bring Perry back on, and you can jump in with any questions you have. Go ahead.
No, absolutely, man. And I've always stuck to my guns when it comes to you or anybody with the Wrestle Talk podcast to come on here and express what you believe, man. As long as you're not hurting nobody or anything like that. And I'll get a little personal here, and we'll relate this right back to Perry. This is a shoot, and I usually don't do this on Wrestle Talk, but we're doing it tonight. For those who follow me on my personal Facebook page, I'm going through a journey with no alcohol myself. Last November 14th, my oldest son, Nicholas, he turned 14 at that time. And on his 14th birthday, I said, you know what? I'm done drinking beers on the weekend. I didn't drink during the week, but I definitely drank one too many on the weekend. And in that time, God willing, I make it to this November 14th and I celebrate a year sober. In that time, I read more of the Bible than I have really in my entire life. I grew up in a Catholic household, and we didn't really follow church. My teenage years, my years in my 20s, I've always had a personal relationship with God, as I believe everybody does. At least I hope they do. But wasn't really going to church, wasn't really reading the Bible, but always praying and always talking to God. Now, in this past year, I've gone to church more than I probably have in my entire life. I read the Bible still even this day. Every morning I wake up, before a Facebook, before a cup of coffee or anything, I'm reading a verse out of the Bible. Every night before I go to bed, I'm reading a verse out of the Bible. So it's now even more special to me now than it would be a year ago that we have Big Daddy P on here. And those prayer requests mean even more to me now than they did a year ago. So, Big Daddy P, I just, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate you being a part of the Wrestle Talk podcast family, because it hits something kind of close to home for me.
Do you understand, Sonny, that you're one of the reasons why I do what I do?
Absolutely.
Because I was once told a story about a man who was on a mountain, who was looking down on a beach, and there was a guy throwing things in the water. And as he got closer, he noticed starfish were washing up on the water and they were dying. So he was trying to throw them all in the water. There were thousands. The guy says, well, you can't save them all, can you? He said, nope. Reached down, picked one up, threw it in the water, and said, but I saved that one. So, Sonny, just know, I always ask the Lord to show me at least one person that God has affected. And let me tell you, there is nothing you can do to impress him. He loves you. He died. When he was on the cross, he had you and your problems in mind. And we all have addiction issues. I have addiction issues to food. I love food, man. I struggle with it every single day. So you just know, man, that the work that you've done is not in vain. And he knows. And listen, alcohol, I've grown up with it my whole life. I've watched friends die from it. And I just want to encourage you, don't give up. Keep going, because you have nothing to lose. And again, that's what this is all about anyway, guys. I mean, we can have all the fun we want and talk, but if we don't have each other, if we don't encourage each other right now, we've got nothing, man, because this world is so screwed up. But that's what makes it so wonderful, because we have something to look forward to. So if anybody ever comes to me and says, well, I don't believe what you believe, awesome. Yep. God still believes you, and he still loves you, and he's ready for a hearing anytime you want to give him a hearing, whenever you're ready, because he's a gentleman, man. He didn't force me into nothing. All the way to 31 years old, I was in a hotel room with a girl, and right in the middle of doing some stuff, a question was asked in my head, and that was, is this all the love you think you can have? I was 31. I'm 51 now. So it's been 20 years. And I can tell you, I had no idea what love was until I met my wife, Jamie. But by the way, I do have to tell you, Renee, you don't know where I'm at. This is a different view for you.
Yeah, I'm like, what is the background, dog? I'm trying to figure out.
I'm actually in the Mess to a Message music recording studio. And I'm actually in where the vocals are done.
I know you say you were going back to music, baby. Well, I love it.
I've got practice every Tuesday and Thursdays, but I always try and make sure that I'm out, because I'm in an area that doesn't have good internet. So today I wanted to make sure that I stayed a little later to rehearsal so I could get in to have a nice signal, because I saw these prayer requests. And first of all, I want to talk about someone right now who is probably hurting more than the majority of the people. And that is Kevin Nash. And that news that with his son was absolutely devastating. And I'm not saying anybody else's problems are not as big, but I can't even imagine right now what he must be going through, because they've gone at it in the past. And I just pray and hope that they had a chance to come back together before this happened. So individually, guys, on your own prayer time, add Kevin Nash, because he already has a drinking problem, I believe. I don't know, and I ain't judging the man at all, but on some of the latest podcasts I saw, he seemed a bit sloshed. I could be wrong. Maybe he's under medicine, but whatever it is, and again, I'm not judging him. I'm just saying we don't want him to get back in and to get worse with his recovery and all that he's done because of this situation. Scott Hall was a huge loss for him. It was one of his best friends.
That's Sonny's favorite wrestler.
Yeah, and now his son. So for sure, when we pray tonight, I know we're going to cover that one. I also know we've got the prayer request also from Rick P in regards to. Now, let me ask you, there were two prayer requests that mentioned STL in a school. There was a school shooting in St. Louis, right?
Two separate deals. Two
totally separate. So, okay. So we got one from Rick P. We got one about Kevin Nash. And then we've got one from Chris in Missouri. Was there any more that came in, just so that I don't forget as we're going?
I think that was about it, Perry.
Okay. Now, one other thing. There were a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, because, again, our world is we're kind of running out of time. Either one of two things are going to happen. Either we're going to finish this interview or Christ is going to come back. Either way, we're winning, because I'm not going to let anybody who's listening tonight, if you've never given God a try, if you've never tried him, forget religion. It ain't about religion. It's all about relationship. He wants a personal, I don't care if it's what you're going to wear in the morning. If you ask him what you want to eat, whatever it is, the problem is we don't ask him for the things that we want. We think he's too busy or we're not important. And I want to remind you, not only are you important, but you're part of his kingdom. He said, I will build my church, and he uses us every week, man, to reach people. We
just got another. We just got another one.
True. Okay. Drew.
We just got another one.
You see, now listen.
I'm telling you, man.
Now, by the way, I am not some prayer genius. Okay. You can pray to God directly, but just know that as an ambassador of Christ, my job is to represent him. That includes people that come forward with prayer requests. Okay. I don't do special healings. The gift that God gave me is one simple gift, 4 letters, and it's not what you think. It's love. That is the gift he gave me, to love unconditionally, to realize and recognize that we all fall short. And if you think more highly of yourself than someone else, then you're not understanding what the gospel's all about. Everybody remembers John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. Whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. But not everybody knows 1 John 3:16, which mentions, it says, you will know love by this, that one lays down his life for the brethren, but we also have to lay down the life for one another.
Well, speaking of laying down your life for the brethren, you may have heard of all the violence in St. Louis over the last couple of days. It's made national news, and we have one of our loyal members of the Wrestle Talk family here, Aaron Wallace, requesting a prayer request on behalf of his brother's friend, who was a police officer who was shot in Platoon Beach. Tyler Timmons was his name. And again, he's petitioning for a prayer request. So we started with 3. Now we're up to 5 just in the last couple of minutes. That's the power of snippets of truth. That's why we do this every week, guys. And we don't always do a full-blown interview with Perry, and we will get back into the wrestling stuff here in just a minute. But I think that if even one person, going back to your starfish story, even if we save one, if we're able to reach one, make an impact in one, clearly you've done it for Sonny. You've definitely done it with me, and it just continues to happen here live on the broadcast. It's now, incredible.
I need to introduce to you somebody very important in my life that God has brought into my life for multiple reasons, and he's the reason right now that I'm actually able to be on. And I want to introduce you to the lead singer and writer of our group, Mess to a Message Music. His name is Scott Sparkman. Scott, get over here, brother. And I know you can't hear, so I'm going to give you the headphones to say hello. This is Scott Sparkman with Mess to a Message Music.
Oh,
what's up, Scott?
What's up, Scott?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast, man. I hope you're enjoying the show from sitting next to Big Daddy P there.
Right. Big wrestling fan here.
Absolutely.
You too? Fan. Yeah.
Yeah, the disease continues to spread.
Yeah. he show last week when we had Enzo.
Wow, did you guys have a great time or what?
Yeah,
sold out.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good show.
We did. We got involved. Yeah, and it's
his wife was getting so fired up, man. It was hysterical.
We had fun. We gotta watch the Territory show tonight.
There's a new episode.
You should. Well, listen, we'll be happy to share anything you guys want us to share on the Wrestle Talk podcast media. But I want to thank you because our listeners know that Perry is still on his way back from, medical issues. And he said to me, he's like, Renee, one of the things that's going to get me back to where I want to be is music. And so for you to be there to help facilitate that, man, thank you, because the Wrestle Talk podcast is not the same without snippets of truth. It is not the same without Big Daddy P. So thank you for being that support system that he needs.
Yeah, we just had the small conversation earlier about the born-again wrestlers, showing the way for other wrestlers and things, these days, man, which is a really
Shawn Michaels,
yeah.
Ted DiBiase.
There's so many.
So many of them. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hey, FYI, you may not know this, our first big interview in Wrestle Talk podcast history. I was telling my guys earlier, we're close to 1,000 hours of content, Perry. And still to this day, the interview that sticks with me more than any other was our first big interview. And that's when you helped facilitate the interview with Ted DiBiase. That was life-changing for everybody associated with the Wrestle Talk podcast. It was just, we could never believe it, because up to that point, and all due respect to the local guys, all we had was local guys. And because of that, that led to, Chris Whaley and Savio Vega and so many other legends beyond that. So yeah, man, God bless you guys, man. Both of you guys, honestly.
Amen. Well, nice to meet you. Nice talking to you.
Pleasure.
God bless you.
You'll hear more from Mess to Message Music, I promise, because we're finally just getting the drums dialed in.
That's right.
It takes a lot of work, man. It's not something that's done overnight. And we just started this group 5 weeks ago?
Hey, Perry.
Yep.
Hey, but tell your boy too, anything you could do to help us get some non-copyrighted music, we would greatly appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, for real. We're having a real problem over here trying to monetize, bro. That's all I got to say.
No, of course. Yeah. And it is, you're right. It is difficult.
It is.
Anything is possible, right? That's what makes
right.
the Lord so good.
All right. You guys ready to get into some pro wrestling topics? Because Perry, on top of everything else, I know you know your wrestling. You want to do a couple of hot topics with us, if you don't mind?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it now. Sonny Money, you and I were having this conversation earlier, and Sonny actually threw this High Spots question out. We addressed it earlier, but we want to get your thoughts. Let's go and throw it back up here. In case you can't read it, I'll go ahead and read it out loud. It says, besides the wrestlers in the ring, what would you consider the most important part of a professional wrestling show? You worked as a ring announcer. You've done music.
The fans. You without the fans, you got nothing. And without the wrestlers, you have no show. Without the promoter, you have no show. But without the fans are the most important reason why every wrestler that I know is in this business, because they want to, for at least 3 minutes, if their match is, let's say, 5 minutes, they want to provide 5 minutes of something to forget people's problems, and they can focus on that. But the fans, without a doubt.
Yep. All right. Question number 2, and you're basically echoing what Sonny said, so well done. I'm sure he's loving that.
Absolutely.
Number 2, this was a question that I brought to the table. With all the recent attention on CTE and concussions in sports as a whole, is it time to rethink safety measures in the world of professional wrestling? What are your thoughts, Big Daddy P?
Well, first of all, the word professional requires training. Doesn't mean trained wrestlers don't get injured.
Preach.
They do. But let me tell you, and some of the greatest I can't help but think of Bret Hart and Goldberg. Okay.
Yep.
Bret Hart
can't seem to forget about it either.
He's the most bitter person, and I get it, man. I get it. I know what it's like. I never had his success in any way, but I know what it's like to want to do something and not be able to do it. The fact is that in this business, you're going to get hurt. That it's part of it. And I think why people are getting more injured now than even 10 years ago is because they have to make it look
more real.
Yeah, and
the
punch.
4K. Everything's in 4K.
And I always make this joke about don't punch like a girl. But the fact remains, don't punch like a girl, because some of the girls, they're it's not a female thing. I mean, untrained. Training is the most important. If you are going in there with only one training under your belt, and
there's no excuse, by the way. There
are
schools
not with all the
now.
Training organization, and even online, they're offering online stuff now. So, but until you get in that ring, there is no other sport that I can think of that is more abusive to the body than professional wrestling.
So on that note, I'm going to piggyback here. What safety measures should they implement? I talked about the potential of, requiring elbow pads, knee pads, and potentially even kind of a helmet like Kurt Angle used to wear. Who's the guy on Impact now, Sonny? That we
Josh Alexander.
There's a couple of guys that wear that. Would you be opposed to that? Would that turn you off the professional wrestling,
No.
Perry, if they started using that sort of stuff?
I've got a little thought on that. Yeah, speaking of wrestling fan,
Here we go.
And with the question, I can get in the shot. With the question, it may be time. Is it time to rethink safety measures in professional wrestling? It may be time. as far as training or band mood or or whatever it could be. It may be time. But I was watching the documentary on Davey Boy Smith last night.
Wow.
And this guy, man, he just laid it all out there.
What a legend.
But before he had a wife, before he was married, before he had a family, he was a professional wrestler. That was his first love and his first passion. And and to him, it seemed to be more important than his wife and his family, tragically. But I mean, what this guy did, and what they do and what they put their bodies through. And I was thinking, I love to sing and be on stage and perform, and I've questioned, whether I may go down on the stage. I may fall off the stage and break my neck, but I don't want anybody telling me not to do it because, it's dangerous up there, and I am willing to fall off the stage and break my neck for something that I love, so.
And that's because,
Hey, both of you guys have headsets now. That's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, I'm listening. But yeah, it may be time to rethink.
I just don't want it to end up like the Pro Bowl. I mean, that was the worst Pro Bowl this year I've ever seen. I was like, they're not even tackling. They're not doing it. Why play?
Right.
If you're going to do it, do it. But if you're going to do it, you do it right. But even in the old days, people still got injured, man. No matter how safe you were, no matter how the moves were scheduled, things still happen. And even in sports today, look at all the safety measures they've added in football. And has it affected the game?
Absolutely.
A little bit, for sure. Sonny, I want to have you jump back in here because I know that this was a topic you were very passionate about. So what are your thoughts here after hearing what the gentleman had to say?
No, and it's kind of like, what he's saying about being up on stage. He knows the risk. Hey, yeah, he's up there singing and he's jamming and he's enjoying his music, but he knows that there's a chance he could fall off the stage. And it's just basically what I was saying earlier. When these guys sign that waiver in the wrestling school, and you sign a contract with WWE, AEW, TNA, whoever, you got to understand that those are the risks. You know what I mean? Hey, I drive a tractor trailer for a living. I'm a truck driver. I understand that tomorrow I could go out there, get in my truck, and someone could wreck right into me. And I could not only take their life, or they could take my life. And it's even more of a factor because I drive all the time, so that increases the risk for an accident. But I understand that, and I make a good living doing that. And I provide services to everybody around doing that, making sure everybody has water and so on and so forth. Wrestling is a service to us because it is our outlet to not think about bills and health and so on and so forth for 2 or 3 hours a week. I want to see them go balls to the wall. So.
Okay, and I can only counter your point with this. You're a truck driver. Your job is to deliver stuff. And even though it makes you look a little bit less cool, you still wear your seatbelt, right?
It does, yeah. I still wear my seatbelt, but the risk is still there. But the risk is still there, brother.
My thing is, wrestling is going to be dangerous no matter what kind of headgear and elbow and knee pads you put on guys. It's not going to take away from their ability to get their product over to wear a helmet during the match, especially if it means that I get 3 or 5 more years of Stone Cold and 3 or 5 years more of Bret Hart. If that's the sacrifice that I have to make to watch my favorite wrestlers continue their careers, I'm more than okay with making that sacrifice.
So let me ask you this real quick, and Big Daddy P, I want you in on this also too, my friend. So let me ask you this flat out question: you enjoy NFL more now, or do you enjoy NFL more when we came up, Renee?
Way before, yeah.
No, there's no question. There's no question. You're gonna give something up, and I'm more than willing to see that happen if I get 3 more years of Barry Sanders, if I get 3 more years of Jim Brown, if I get 3 more years of Terrell Owens. I'm more than willing to give up a little bit of the entertainment value to see my favorite guys continue their careers and not end up like Muhammad Ali. I just got to say that.
Broken arm or a torn ligament is one issue, but brain injury, it's totally.
Junior Seau, bro. Look at Junior Seau. Look at the Tennessee quarterback, Steve McNair. How these guys ended up.
And I understand that, but in the same breath, and it's kind of like what I said earlier, I'm letting my almost 13-year-old son play football. And this was a discussion that I actually had to sit down and have with his mother, and it was more me talking than her of saying, hey, should we let him play? Should we not let him play? Based solely on CTE and concussions, not broken arms, ligaments, fingers and toes and all that. But we understand, and he also, as much as he can at almost 13 years old, understand the risk. I'm not going to take away his childhood. He has a passion for football, and I explained to him, hey, you're going to get your bell run, especially playing offense and defensive line. He understands those risks. I understand those risks. You know what I mean? So, and yeah, there's so many precaution and safety measures, but at the same time, I want him to go out and I wanted him to crack some heads, bust some people up, man, and push some people down on the ground and make some kids who not want to come back into the game. Again, this is kind of like how I related to ECW earlier. ECW got over.
Example.
You know what I mean? ECW got over because there was ladders and flaming tables and so on and so forth. Yeah, those guys were hurting probably more than the WWF guys when they were at Denny's at the end of the night. But dude, it's professional wrestling, brother. Again, if they, I want them to be as safe as possible. Renee, like I said, I put that on my social media. But if I'm gonna watch ballet, then I'm gonna go watch ballet.
Russian ballet.
I say bring back roller derby, and we'll all be happy.
That's right. Everybody gets scrapped.
By the way, hey, what's that ladies football league? Right?
Yeah,
they hit harder than the NFL does.
Yeah, they go hard.
Yeah,
they go hard. The lingerie league.
Yeah,
they go.
I can't watch that with a clear conscience. Sometimes.
Yo, we went from prayer request to lingerie football.
But it's more aggressive. That football is more aggressive than the NFL.
Yeah,
and that's why I enjoy it.
Yep.
Well, you're talking to a Chiefs fan who had to suffer a few weeks ago with a strip sack fumble turn into a roughing the passer. So some of it goes overboard, and I'm with Sonny on that one. Like, if we're gonna start putting this and that and requiring this and that on everybody, where do we draw the line? It's gonna get so watered down that it's not gonna be fun anymore.
That would be the problem, and that would be the exact problem, Night Owl, because you're gonna say, okay, now we're doing helmets and this, that, and the other.
Add something else.
Yep, and the NFL's doing it now, and the next thing you know, they're gonna be taking suplexes on the trampoline. And, if some guy turns 90 degrees the wrong way and gets a scrape on the trampoline, match is over. I mean, that's what it will lead to. I really believe that.
Look at Hangman Page.
Oh, gosh.
What was he doing? He wasn't. I mean, he just turned around and took Moxley hits those line day and night.
Well, it's like what happened to Perro Aguayo Jr. when he was wrestling AAA against Rey Mysterio, caught the 619, killed the guy doing a 619, which is like a super safe move. You put your hands up, you fall back, you take the pin, 1, 2, 3, it's over. It's Giants wide receiver Sterling Shepard was literally walking. Go back and watch the video. Walking on the football field and blew his ACL out. I mean, he was walking. You know what I mean? He knew what it is. It's part of the game. You know what I mean? I can't preach that one enough.
Even Enzo knocking himself out. You remember that?
Oh gosh, the rope.
Yep.
That was.
I almost wanted to ask him about that, but he was too busy going over his match.
Right.
To even discuss it. But by the way, I got to tell you, man, not only did Enzo show up, and not only did Enzo show off like he always does, but he gave glory to God in the ring, brother. I was like,
hey, Eminem,
I did not see that coming.
Eminem did it. Eminem did it in the latest what album was the DJ Khaled album, man. All praise. All right, one last wrestling quick hitter, and then I'm gonna need both of you gentlemen to put your helmet on for tonight's edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. It'll be Sunny Money Mayo against the one and only Big Daddy P. Cali versus Philly, baby. It's about to go down. Are y'all ready for this? All right, I got one more for y'all, and it'll be a quick hitter, and it's recent and it's up-to-date wrestling fodder. Okay, the question is simple: more intriguing matchup, Brock versus Bobby or Omos versus Braun? Our guest always gets the opportunity to go first. Big Daddy P, hit us.
Oh God, they're both terrible in a way. I get why they're doing it. I do. First of all, Braun Strowman's latest shot with Omos, he looks so cool. I even sent him a message on Instagram. I said, bro, that promo, that shot is the best shot and he looks incredible, man. Better than I've ever seen him look. I think the Omos match is probably more intriguing to me than the Brock versus Bobby, because they buried Brock so bad and so many times lately, even him losing to Roman. And it's just, I don't know what they're going to do.
Is that really being buried, though? You lose the main event. Is that really being buried? I think we've blurred what being buried actually means. I mean, I don't hate to disagree with you, Big Daddy P, but
I just think that you can only make him look so strong, and you can only make him look so weak. And if he's being, I mean, how many times have we seen him and Roman Reigns? 7 times.
Yep. And there'll be more,
right? And but I also think they're cleaning up a lot of stuff too. That now that Vince is gone, Hunter's getting a lot of his guys back, which is good. I can't wait for Eva Marie to come back. I'm probably the only one. Yes, I'm so excited.
Wait, I think we have a drop for that too. Wait a second. Oh, Big Daddy P, you're killing me with that.
Fucking bullshit!
I always want. Look, the last time she came back, I'm like, come on, you're gonna do it.
Listen,
that reminds me of a certain Mexican individual who hosts Wrestle Talk podcast who tried to tell me that Alicia Fox was a WWE Hall of Famer. All right,
Shots fired.
Jeez, Louise.
Longevity, man, longevity. By the way, Perry, listen. I got a recommendation for you. This is with all due respect. Forget Eva. Scarlett. Just get some Scarlett in your life, and that's all you really need.
Yeah, I haven't seen her really do much.
That's blasphemy. I'm not even going to address that.
That's
blasphemy.
She spent a lot of time on NXT, right?
Yeah, with Karrion Kross. Yeah,
I wasn't watching
about these women. Hey, listen, you better give me Almost versus Braun all day long. All right, listen.
It's not
Almost. Listen. Almost. At that height, you expected him when he came on TV to move. I expected him to move like the great Khali. I expected my man. He couldn't even. I was like, this dude can't lift his freaking leg over.
He's like Keith Lee.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
bro.
It's incredible what he can do.
Braun left, and as the good old JR likes to say, he went and learned a new wrestling move. He went out, and he didn't really change his look or his gimmick or whatever. He came back, and it was, the monster. And, he came back in KC. I got to witness that one live. That was dope. And he ran through the tag division like he was supposed to do, build him up. So now, Brock versus Bobby, that should have happened 12 years ago. Yeah, Hogan and Flair didn't happen until 94. Vince missed the boat. He should have did it in 92 with the WrestleMania, and he missed the boat. And when Hogan and Flair finally touched it, Bash at the Beach 94, it wasn't as interesting.
Too late.
And that's the same thing with Brock and Bobby. You're trying to get me over with the U.S. champion and Brock. Nah, bro, I'm straight on all that. You give me Almost versus Braun.
By the way, listen, and I hate to disagree with you, but this is the best Bobby Lashley we've ever seen on the mic and what he brings to the table inside the ring. And the same could be said about Brock Lesnar. Back then, Brock Lesnar wouldn't even dare touch a microphone. Now he's doing his own thing. He's got the cowboy hat. He's got the swagger. Why are you going to try to tell me that it would have been a bigger deal back then than it is now if the Saudis are willing to pay $30 million to watch these guys in the ring right now? Nobody would have paid $30 million for them back then.
Because the Saudis are willing to pay $30 million to see Tugboat versus Yokozuna, and they don't care if you got to dig them up out of the grave.
On
no,
Fred,
I'm being dead serious, bro. Go look it up. No, I'm being dead serious. The Saudis were asking for deceased wrestlers, bro. They didn't know they were deceased or not. Much respect to the Saudi Arabia.
Hold on, though. So did our president.
He did.
Right. But listen.
Where is Jackie? Where is she? She's dead, you idiot.
The pro wrestling crowd.
Got him. I'm sorry. I got to get myself together right now.
The pro wrestling crowd has been asking for Brock versus Bobby 10 years ago. Okay. Yes. Again, I'm going to relate it right back to that point. They were dying for Hogan.
Omos and Braun either. No one asked.
No one cares about Omos and Braun, bro.
Hey, no one cares. You say that, okay? What I will do personally, listen, hold on. I'll make you guys a deal.
Whoa, hold on.
Sonny, hold on, Perry.
Braun just got slammed by Otis, okay? He got slammed by Otis a few weeks ago, and now he's going up against Omos. It's like,
it's not a good look.
But you're putting your character over. So listen, this is what I will do. I personally will do this for you, Big Daddy P. I will go back. because this is so big in the wrestling community. I know it doesn't mean as much here, but I will go back and look at the TV ratings myself and see what Braun and almost draw compared to what.
No one gave a stuff.
Hey, the fans are watching, Renee. The fans are watching.
We already got the answer right here. Listen.
Drew a dime. Not a dime.
Yeah.
Not a dime.
Never
drew a dime.
I'm
Not
sorry.
a dime. Not a
I'm
dime.
sorry.
Brock is going to draw far more than any of those guys.
Braun
came all the time. So what? Brock is a marquee name. You need to build more guys. You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
Braun came and went, and nobody gave a damn. Almost was gone, and people missed MVP more than they missed Almost. I'm sorry to tell you that, but right now, as far as marquee, what do people care about more? It's probably going to be Brock and Bobby, even though it's 10 years too late. The notoriety, and I'm with you though. They should build them.
The question is more intriguing, Hoss match, more intriguing. What's Brock and Bobby going to do except clothesline and spear the shit out of each other and German suplex the shit out of each other?
And the crowd will be into every single second of it. Every suplex. 1, 2.
Of course. They draw and they do good what they do, but give me new stars. Give me
I'm with you on that point, though. From a future perspective and building the talent perspective, that's what you do. But intriguing, what are people going to be more intrigued by? It's definitely going to be Brock and Bobby, even if it is 10 years too late.
Listen,
I mean, that's just the facts.
Or Nikki Ash.
Go ahead, Big Daddy P. Big Daddy P. What do you got?
Big Nikki Ash. Get out of here, man. And we're about to boo you out of here.
She's back with a new gimmick. Thank God it's not sweatpants.
Listen, I'm going to say this real quick. I believe I won this argument just like I'm about to win this game show challenge. So, Big Daddy P,
let's go.
You can take all your Eva Marie's and your Nikki Ashes and all that. It's much love to you, my friend, but the gloves are off at this point in time. Yeah, you dealt with nice conservative Steve Mayo in the basement of Kansas City.
All right.
Sonny Money Mayo. Yeah,
let me get into this intro. I'm going to go ahead and take the center towel here because I do have the privilege of hosting tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. If you guys wouldn't do me a favor in the back and going ahead and hitting that music, because tonight's edition is going to be a very, very special one. Hit it. Somehow Big Daddy P's turning this into a freestyle. I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's installment of the world-famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contest is scheduled for a best 2 out of 3 falls. Our contestants are Big Daddy P and the Wrestle Talk Podcast very own Sonny Money Mayo. In a few moments, I will ask 3 questions about a professional wrestling topic. Whoever you think is the correct answer, simply shout it out. The first person to score 2 out of 3 falls will win tonight's game show challenge. Are you gentlemen ready?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Love to hear it. Let's go ahead and rock and roll. Tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge category is NWA World Champions. That's right. We don't just talk WWE here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. We cover all facets of professional wrestling. You better know that. Take notes. Please note the name of the category, which will again be NWA World Champions. In a few moments, I will give you information about 3 professional wrestlers who have held both the NWA World Heavyweight Championship and the NWA World Television Championship. Once again, when you think you know the answer, please simply shout it out. You do not have to wait until I am done asking the question to submit your answer. Again, are you gentlemen ready?
Ric Flair. Oh, no, my bad. I thought we started. Yeah, I'm ready, Night Owl.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good answer, but incorrect.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. In 1997, this WWE Hall of Famer held the NWA Television Championship. I'm sorry, let me correct what I just said so it doesn't create confusion. This 2007 WWE Hall of Famer held the NWA World Television Championship on 3 occasions.
Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes is correct.
Ooh.
Sonny Money Mayo is up 1-0. All right. And be careful on these game show challenges. Things change up in just a matter of moments, so stay on your toes. Question number 2. This 2009 WWE Hall of Famer.
Ric Flair.
That is incorrect. This 2009 WWE Hall of Famer held the NWA World Television Championship on 4 occasions. He also held the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in 1989. He had many classic matches, including matches with the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and those are recognized as some of the greatest championship matches in professional wrestling history. Also, wait for the next clue. Also, he defeated the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is correct. Sonny Money Mayo up 2 questions to none. Here we go. We'll continue to question number 3. This accomplished professional wrestler, known for spraying green and red mist,
The Great Muta.
The Great Muta is correct. And an unbelievable sweep this evening, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 415th edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge, our very own Sonny Money. That's right, Sonny Money Mayo. Come on, man. Let me see. You got some dance moves? You
gonna hit me with my music, DJ, in the back? What's up, bro? I need my music.
I mean, do we have to?
Absolutely, baby. My bad, Big Daddy P. As the Night Owl says, I am the godfather when it comes to professional wrestling knowledge. I know this knowledge in the back of my head when my eye drips this way, that way, or whatever way it goes, because I love professional wrestling, and I'm an encyclopedia. So, great game show challenge, my friend. But as always, I win in the end.
Now let's do Bible trivia.
Let's move Bible trivia. Well, Big Daddy, man, you know what? I think Sonny would immediately yell "Uncle."
Congratulations, Sonny. You did it, brother.
Congratulations, Sonny. Well deserved. Well deserved. And by the way, we are working on some updated, like, you won music. The old win that we were using for so many times.
Hey, I just needed something, bro. I just couldn't. I gotta have something, bro. You know.
Oh, okay, Sonny Money, you're already getting heat for being a little too braggadocious there, Sonny. I'm sorry, bro.
Nah, it is what it is. I'm not cocky. I'm just confident, man.
I love to hear it. Well, Big Daddy P, we'll give you back the center tile to do a couple of things. Number one, to thank you for being here tonight and for being a humble servant of the Lord, for being an important part of the Wrestle Talk podcast, our very own Wrestle Talk podcast chaplain. I want to give you an opportunity, give you a platform here, the last 30, 45 seconds, man, to give us something from the heart, whether it be how you're feeling, what the show means to you, just basically anything. If you want to put over your stuff, share your social media, your website, whatever, ever you want to do with this last bit of time, man, it is 100% yours, man. You've earned that.
I actually have a very important prayer request. Last year, my wife fell out of a window. She's a window washer. And she broke 3 pelvic bones, had rotator cuff surgery. And it's been a year to the day today. And we just found out she's got to have surgery again on her shoulder. That means she's going to be out of work. We're both self-employed. God faithfully took care of us. But if I'd like to put a request out there for those that pray also for my wife, Jamie, that through this, not only that her arm will get healed, but she'll be able to get back to work as quick as possible. And so that we don't have to be concerned about any of the money junk, which we don't have to be concerned anyway. But at the same time, when you don't know what the Lord's going to do, there's this kind, and I guess that's what makes the most important part about faith is something that you don't see. So I definitely want to ask for that. Also, a part of it on a week-to-week basis, but there are some behind-the-scenes people who probably don't get recognized as much as they should, not just with Wrestle Talk in general, but I want to mention JPK Jones, who is a business partner of mine, who we do independent shows together. I want to thank him because he gives me an opportunity to look much bigger and better than I am by being the owner of Action Sports Wrestling. He always makes it so big, and I'm just thankful for that. I'm also thankful for the opportunity that I get to pray with you guys every week, because you guys are my brothers from another mother. You know what I mean? Sisters from another mister, even the ladies that are on. So I mean no disrespect. But I am thankful that we get to come together for a moment to stop the day and the craziness on Tuesdays, to be able to petition heaven, because let me tell you, without prayer, I don't know what I would do. If I got a busy signal when I called God or a voicemail, it would be very disappointing. But it seems like every time I've ever called or cried out to him, he's answered. And I realized why, because he's the one that brought me here. So if he brought me here, he's obligated to, one, provide for my needs, two, to answer my prayers, but they have to be according to his will. So I just want to encourage you today that if you've never ever accepted Christ, if you've never heard what he's done for you, I just want you to be aware that over 2,000 years ago, God solved the sin problem by sending himself in the form of flesh to die for us, so that when our time is done here on the earth, we can have eternal life. The Bible says, it is written that by believing that Jesus is the Christ, meaning that his death on the cross as a substitute for you, you accept that, then eternal life is yours. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are trying to say you can lose your salvation and all this stuff, but let me tell you, you can't lose something you didn't earn to begin with. He did the work. So just rest assured, relax. You cannot impress a perfect God, nor is he expecting you to impress him. But he does want you to be real. And he does want you to ask for your needs, and he will provide for them. So I know we've got quite a list of prayer requests. Give me the last two again. I know one was from Drew, right?
Yeah, let me go back through the comment section and read those off
just
to
to
you.
make sure, because we don't want to miss. We don't want to miss.
You're right, and we are going to close the show with the prayer. So again, everybody, thank you for episode 415. Myself, Sonny Money Mayo, the rest of the Wrestle Talk podcast team, including Skywalker, Justin, Jeremy, Big Hoss, Joe Lance, who will be sharing some video from him and his confrontation with Gahagas on our social media here over the next couple of days. So make sure you keep a lookout for that. Thank you to everybody who commented and shared today's broadcast. Sorry about the Facebook Messenger issues early on. We got those fixed and got them back up and running for all of you guys. And in terms of any missing prayer requests, I'm scrolling back through Big Daddy P. I'm having a hard time finding them. So let's go ahead and run through everything that you wrote down. And again, Sonny, great to have you back on the show, bro. Can't wait to see more of you through the remainder of 2022. God bless you, bro. Love you. Talk to you soon. And awesome show, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you guys. Big shout out to our first hour guest. Big shout out to our second hour guest. Big shout out to everybody in the comment section, everybody liking, sharing, and just being a part of this Wrestle Talk podcast family, our sponsors included. We couldn't do this every Tuesday without you guys. So much love. Thank you so much, Night Owl. You know how much I love you, brother. You're my brother from another. Big Daddy P, thank you for everything tonight, man. And I can't wait to hear this. I can't wait to hear you close out the show, and I'll be listening. Thank you, guys.
Let's do it. Good night.
Our Father God, we thank you so much for all that you continue to do. Thank you for Scott with Mess to Message Music and his family for allowing me to use the internet and take this time. Father, we thank you for the Wrestle Talk podcast, where we get to weekly come to you with the requests of those that are watching the show. Father, we start off with Kevin Nash and his son. We know that your son is in good hands with you now. He's face to face with you. And I just ask that you would give comfort to him and his family during these times of trouble, as well as for all the friends that he had. I know a lot of people are hurting. Father, we also bring to you a prayer request from Rick P. in St. Louis, and in regards to Thanksgiving, that his school is going well. Father, we just pray that you would continue to guide him, open every door that needs to be open, close every door that needs to be closed. For Chris in Missouri, Father, we know that there is a request about the school shooting. We know that there are so many school shootings and things going on now, Father, but we know in the midst of all these things, comfort for the families that are affected. We also want to pray for Drew's prayer request. Father, you know all the details of all of these requests. And I am just thankful that we can be a part of this, that we can come to you at a time like this with these prayers. And Father, I just pray that for those that did not get their request in, we know that you've heard them. We know that you know their situation. And I can never thank you enough for all that you do. Father, I'm reminded that your word is alive and powerful. It's sharper than any two-edged sword. It pierces even to the dividing asunder in the soul and the spirit, through the joints and the marrow. And your word is a critic of thoughts and intents of the heart. We know that all scripture is God-breathed and is profitable for doctrine, teaching, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God might be mature and thoroughly furnished unto all good works. We should study to show ourselves approved unto you, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, that we continue to rightly divide this word of truth. Father, thank you so much for Sonny and his heart. Father, thank you for his strength that you continue to give him to beat this issue with alcohol. Father, we know that he is past now the point of where his battle is as often as it was, but we know that the temptation will always come back, but we know that you are the God of healing and restoration. And I thank you so much for this time. I thank you for all that you're going to do, and we love you, and we ask these things in the name of the one who saved us, Jesus Christ, in whose name I pray. Amen.